Hello, 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 check, hello, hello, check, 1, 2, 3, hello. My testing, 1, 2, 3, hello. Hello, check, hello, hello, check, hello, check, hello.
Good evening, class. Any doubt from these topics, what we have discussed?
Exchange rate.
Real effective exchange rate. Anything else? बजट में अनाउंस किया था क्रेडिट कार्ड पे जो भी एक्सपेंस होगा वो लिमिट में काउंट होगा, बट देन दे सेड नो. So now credit card expenses will not be part of the limit and there will be no tax collected at source for it. Not part of the limit. बजट में अनाउंस किया था होगा, फिर वापस 2 महीने बाद मना कर दिया. They had made certain changes with tax rates. Those tax changes will come after 3 months. That is from 1st October they're applicable. So those changes remain. Only the timeline for implementation was shifted to 3 months later. The credit card expenses were to be included in part of the limit, that is 2.5 lakh rupees. That is not included in part of the limit now. It is what the government has said is we have given more time to the RBI and the banks to prepare for its implementation. It might happen in the future. This is what the idea is with the credit card expenses when made outside India. तो वो liberalized remittance scheme है कि कितने पैसे आप बाहर ले जा सकते हो for capital and current account expenditures. Though we say current account expenditures is fully convertible, there is an exempt items where you can't take the money out. वो छोटी सी list है which is written in your document.
Creates green climate fund and all those things. So are they relevant from the prelims perspective? Like
yes, they are relevant if
all.
they have been covered in the news for the last 1 year. Because what the questions have been centered around are more topic oriented. So if green finance is an important topic, so uske आसपास जो organization या कुछ institutional step है, they are definitely important because no longer are they asking questions on reports. So for example, in the last 2 to 3 years, what is important is the debt profile of various countries and how the increasing debt. तो वो इसलिए debt से related 3-4 चीजें पूछ चुके हैं. They can have questions on green finance also. It's more topic which is being covered in news and related initiatives to those topics of famous organizations, not too much in depth. And since World Bank, IMF, WTO, these are important bodies, G20, they're important bodies, their initiatives become important. 2017-18 they used to ask questions on infrastructure. For example, public-private partnership के लिए क्या initiative है? And World Bank के mostly initiatives हैं. So they used to ask one statement question: global infrastructure facility is a arrangement of which all body? So now, if green finance is an important topic, you should know certain initiatives on green finance. So those things, topic जो important है उससे related जो 3-4 bodies का initiative है, that is important. Debt का I had already given you 4-5 initiatives because debt is also an important topic. Pandemic के बाद बहुत countries को debt का problem हुआ है, that repayment of debt because the economic activity stopped.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, can RBI purchase government securities from secondary market, sir?
हाँ कर सकते हैं ना, open market operations
Sir, can you just explain the difference between primary market and secondary market?
Primary market is when the security is issued for the first time. So what we said, if the government wants to borrow, the RBI will not take that primary issuance. Only the escape clause. So what we said here was, if the government has a fiscal deficit, how is the government going to finance the fiscal deficit? Any point of time, the government borrows in the market by issuing a government security. When it issues the security for the first time, that is called as a primary issuance. When this already traded or already issued security comes in the market, this becomes a secondary market. So ये primary market है when it is issued for the first time. What we are saying is, if the government is has to borrow for its fiscal deficit, the RBI will not subscribe to the primary issuance of government security. This is something which was said by FRBM. Before that, under the agreement of 97 between RBI and government, ये नहीं हो सकता है. But FRBM ने law में लिख दिया that 2006 से RBI will not issue or will not subscribe to the primary issuance of government security for fulfilling its debt obligations, that is borrowing limits. But they introduced an escape clause in 2018 where they said that if there is certain problems in the economy, which they called as the escape clause, then the government can move away from its fiscal deficit target by the tune of 0.5% of GDP, and this 0.5% they can ask the RBI to print money. उस केस में ये हो सकता है, but only in one scenario. And they have also given the conditions for escape clause. For example, there is a war, natural calamity, agriculture production fails completely, and if there is any other impact in the economy where the GDP slows by 3%, real GDP falls by 3%, natural calamity, war, or agriculture production fails, or any other structural reforms which impact the output. In 5 conditions में you can move away from fiscal deficit, and in this case you can ask the RBI to subscribe to your primary issuance. So only in this case you can do that. Otherwise the government can borrow from the RBI only through ways and means advances, which was reached according to an agreement in 97. Secondary market में when whatever government securities are present in the market, the RBI can buy or sell depending on what exactly is the situation of inflation. These are called as open market operations. Because secondary market में पैसा government के पास नहीं जा रहा, और there's no new security in the market, and this is a temporary thing for inflation. For example, in the last 1 year we have seen significant inflationary pressures. For inflationary pressures, the RBI will buy the security or sell the security. If it is inflationary pressure, they will buy or sell. They are going to sell the security. And if they sell too much of securities, this is what we discussed, the supply of securities increases in the market. If the supply increases, what happens to price?
Decrease.
Price will fall, and this is what we said, the yield is rising.
Increase.
तो ये वो कर सकते हैं, बट वो इन्फ्लेशन के लिए कर रहे हैं, डेफिसिट के लिए नहीं कर रहे हैं. ओपन मार्केट ऑपरेशंस कैन बी डन फॉर मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी पर्पसेस ओनली. दे आर नॉट फॉर द डेट मैनेजमेंट फंक्शन और फाइनेंसिंग द डेफिसिट ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट. दिस वाज रीच्ड थ्रू एन एग्रीमेंट इन 97 एंड 2003 FRBM banned it, allowed it after an amendment in 18.
सर अभी प्रेजेंट स्टेटस है कि टेक्निकली दोनों मार्केट से खरीद सकती है अंडर
एस्केप क्लॉज ओनली प्राइमरी. सेकेंडरी में तो दे कैन एनी टाइम डू इट अंडर ओपन मार्केट ऑपरेशंस. Primary only when it is an escape clause, otherwise not.
Okay.
Any other? Sir, any other doubt?
Sir, doom loop क्या होता है?
Doom loop. Banks operate on what? Banks operate on a principle of fractional reserve. That means सबका पैसा एक टाइम पे नहीं है बैंक के पास. Because whatever deposits they had taken, they had given out as loans. Now if the bank faces certain issue where they have certain losses, कुछ एक issue होता है बैंक के साथ where they are facing certain problems. Now if this is a problem which is now creating a panic amongst the depositors, there is a small issue that happens. Due to that panic, the bank, when it faces an issue, it needs more deposit or less deposits. More deposits because I want to correct my business. अगर नया profit होगा तभी मैं पुराने losses cover करूँगा. But if the panic sets in the people and they start taking the deposit out, a small issue now has converted into a bigger panic, which is then going to lead to a failure of the bank. So whenever a small event then further deteriorates the problem instead of solving it, counter cyclical में problem solve होती है. If it doesn't solve it, further worsens it, then it becomes a doom loop. That now it's like problem, पैनिक से फिर और प्रॉब्लम, तो वो लूप बन गया कि पैनिक हुआ, फिर और लोगों को भी लगा हाँ फेलियर ज़्यादा हो रहा है, तो वो फिर दोबारा पैनिक, फिर वो घूमते गए बैंक फेलियर।
सर जो आपने अभी बताया है कि जो क्रेडिट कार्ड के ट्रांजैक्शंस को इंक्लूड करेगा लिमिट में, लेकिन उस पर वो हट गए है ना, तो अब मैं बाहर जाके क्रेडिट कार्ड पे कितनी भी ट्रांजैक्शन कर सकता हूँ?
नो लिमिट।
ओके।
बैंक चार्ज करेगा क्रेडिट कार्ड ट्रांजैक्शन जब भी एक्सचेंज करोगे करेंसी, बहुत ज़्यादा चार्ज करता है और बैंक।
Sir, what is twin deficit?
2.5 lakh is a very high limit, and 2.5 lakh dollars is not rupees multiplied by whatever currency amount. 2.5 lakh dollars आपके पास हैं तो आप कभी सोचोगे नहीं फिर क्रेडिट कार्ड का। 2.5 लाख डॉलर्स बहुत ज्यादा लिमिट है, घूमने जा रहे हो 2.5 लाख डॉलर्स लेके, पूरा आइलैंड थोड़ी खरीदोगे वहां जाके।
Sir, what is twin deficit? Twin deficit.
Twin deficit, when a country has a both fiscal deficit and a current account deficit, this is twin deficit. दोनों डेफिसिट साथ में है, फिस्कल भी और करंट अकाउंट भी, बाहर भी ज्यादा पैसे देने हैं और कंट्री में भी आई एम बोरोइंग मोर।
सर जीडीपी क्राइसिस क्या है सर फिर?
नहीं, मतलब जीडीपी क्राइसिस कुड बी सो मेनी थिंग्स। ट्विन डेफिसिट इज अ प्रॉब्लम फॉर एनी कंट्री। डॉलर्स भी नहीं है और कंट्री में पैसे नहीं है, आपका एक्सपेंडिचर ज्यादा है, नॉट कंसिडर्ड अ गुड थिंग। एनी अदर?
Despite having so much fiscal deficit in USA, how they are managing a stable economy?
If I'm borrowing too much, what is the problem if I'm creating assets? किसी भी कंपनी में the problem is not debt, problem is sustainability of the debt. If any business you want to expand, if I'm spending money in creating asset where I am earning enough money to service my debt, what's the problem of having a debt? Problem होती है what is your debt service ratio? Do you have enough money to cover your debt or not? Problem is not debt. You can have 203%. See, problem with debt to GDP is that one is a stock variable and the other is a flow variable. अब debt हो रहा है compile over the years. GDP compile नहीं हो रही. GDP एक साल की सिर्फ $3 trillion, अगले साल भी 3 trillion और होगी. वो कंपाइल नहीं हो रही, वो एक साल की है, बट डेट कंपाइल्ड है, तो इट्स नॉट अ वेरी ट्रू पिक्चर ऑफ व्हाट द इकोनॉमी इज फेसिंग। एंड ऑल्सो दिस डज नॉट टेल मी वेदर द डेट इज बीइंग यूज्ड फॉर प्रोडक्टिव पर्पसेस और नॉट। इफ डेट इज बीइंग यूज्ड फॉर प्रोडक्टिव पर्पसेस, डेट इज नेवर अ प्रॉब्लम। इफ डेट इज बीइंग यूज्ड फॉर रेवेन्यू एक्सपेंडिचर्स, देन डेट इज अ प्रॉब्लम, बिकॉज कुछ एसेट नहीं बन रहा है, फिर इंटरेस्ट पेमेंट्स बढ़ती जाएंगी, अर्निंग्स नहीं होंगी। तो सस्टेनेबिलिटी इज व्हाट इज द अर्निंग एंड व्हाट इज द इंटरेस्ट पेमेंट। फॉरगेट, अकाउंटिंग का ही है,
Sir,
not important there. Pegging of currency is how do you decide the interest rate or how do you decide the currency? It is based on the demand and supply. When I fix the currency to some other value, when I fix the value, जैसे श्रीलंका ने बोला fix कर दी, that is a fixed currency. But if I fix the currency with some other value, like some other currency, that is a pegged currency. कि हमने peg अपने लिए नहीं, जैसे ही कोई और change होगा तो वैसे हमारा change होगा, pegged it to another currency. Is the idea clear? All the topics, एक real effective exchange rate बचा है।
Sir, if I withdraw 1 lakh rupees from the bank, then what is the effect on economy on immediate effect?
Economy में तो कोई मतलब, I understood what the question you are asking. I'll explain. ये UPSC का question है, I'll explain. First real effective exchange है, सबसे पहले उसने मुझे last में हो रहा है। Now what is real effective? What is the idea of effective exchange rate? When we are talking about exchange rate, we are talking about the currency value with respect to any one currency. But when we are saying effective exchange rate, we want to know what exactly is the competitiveness of rupee with a basket of currency. अब ये basket में मैं 5 currency रखूँ, 6 रखूँ, 40 रखूँ, कितनी भी रख सकता हूँ. This tells me the competitiveness with other currencies, not just with one. Now if I compare just nominally, that is one-on-one average, that is what is the value of rupee in terms of SDR and what is the value of external currency in terms of SDR. And I'm not taking a normal average, I am taking a weighted average, जितना trade है उसी हिसाब से वो currency important है मेरे लिए. So for example, I'm saying with 2 currencies, one is dollar and the other is euro. So what is the rupee value with respect to SDR? What is the dollar value with respect to SDR? And what exactly is the trade I'm doing with US? What is the rupee value with respect to SDR? And what is euro with respect to SDR? And what exactly is the trade value I'm doing with Europe? This is telling me how much the currency appreciated or depreciated, because the value which I consider here is with respect to a base. कि 2015 में ये क्या था और आज क्या है, 2015 and 2018. Now if this value increases, that means I am having an appreciated currency. Why? Because here I am looking rupee value in terms of SDR. तो अगर rupee 30 SDR का था, 40 SDR क्या हो गया? That means rupee is gaining value. Gaining value is nothing but appreciate. तो मतलब base से आज overvalued है currency. If the value would have reduced, that means base से depreciated, undervalued. 30 to 40 गए तो appreciated, 30 to 20 जाते. That means आप एक 2015 में देख रहे हो और एक आज देख रहे हो. तो ये base values होती हैं. That is approximately an index. Is the idea clear how NER is calculated? Now, real effective exchange rate is when I also include the price impact on both the countries. See, when we talk about nominal exchange rate and real exchange rate, we are saying how many units of domestic currency are required to buy 1 unit of foreign currency, right? Real exchange rate में बोलते हैं how many basket of goods would be required in India to buy 1 basket of similar goods in US. तो ये currency की competitiveness है, ये goods की competitiveness है, that is real exchange rate. Same is with nominal effective exchange rate and real effective exchange rate. Nominal में we are comparing only the currency competitiveness. Here we are comparing the goods competitiveness. So it will be rupee with SDR, foreign currency with SDR, into price of goods in India, price of goods in whatever country you are comparing. तो ये real effective exchange rate है, which also includes the price differential between the two countries. Now what we said is NER की value बढ़ेगी तो currency appreciate हो रही है. Same REER की value बढ़ेगी तो भी appreciate हो रही है. अगर inflation इंडिया में ज़्यादा है तो भी value will increase. This is the concept of NER and REER. Competitiveness of the currency with a basket of currency, competitiveness of my goods with a basket of goods outside, with number of countries. That is real effective and nominal effective. Effective means competitiveness with basket. Nominal and real means one-on-one with currency, one-on-one with goods. This is the idea. जैसे ही real effective exchange rate 1 हो जाएगा, that will be your currency rate of purchasing power parity. That means parity कर दी कि ये दोनों में same goods है, तो कितने का मिलेगा वही currency का exchange rate है. When this becomes 1. Is the idea clear? NER, REER, how they are calculated? UPSC has already asked a very detailed question. कम chances आएगा. What was the question? 1 lakh is withdrawn. What is the impact on money supply, not economy? Money supply. What will happen? No change. Why? 1 लाख. ये आंसर याद करने का यही प्रॉब्लम है. नहीं, I've done this in the class, so people of the class know what the answer is. 1 lakh is deposited, loan and, so whatever deposit say, deposit and loan and reserve. Now what I'm saying is, what if I withdraw 1 lakh? तो अगर पहले बैंक के पास 5 लाख थे, अब बैंक के पास, so if in this case it's 5 lakh, 4 lakh, 4 lakh के केस में will the loan amount be less? अगर 5 लाख थे, 1 लाख चला गया, तो 4 lakh है. Now if someone comes to take the loan, can I give them a loan of 5 lakh? Maximum I can give a loan of. So did the money supply reduce? Money supply is what? Why? Money supply is what? Total stock of money. तो अगर कोई भी इंडिकेटर लेते हैं, पहला इंडिकेटर लेते हैं करेंसी प्लस, सॉरी, करेंसी में +1 हो गया एंड डिमांड डिपॉजिट में -1. But if someone wants to come to take a loan, currency में he'll only get a loan of 4 lakh. In the previous case, he was getting a loan of 5 lakh. So did the value change? Why? Loan कम बना है अब. Loan is now reduced. Earlier I was giving loan of 5 lakh, now I'm getting 4 lakh. तो 90,000 अगर रिजर्व मानूं मैं 10%, तो 90,000 एक्स्ट्रा लोन नहीं दे सकता हूं मैं. Do you understand? Yes. The question in the UPSC said what will happen immediately. Immediately no impact because immediately loan लेने कोई नहीं आ रहा है. Immediately this activity does not have to happen. Immediately this is only +1 -1. But when the bank will have to create a loan, in this case they can give a loan on 5 lakh. In this case they can give a loan on 4 लाख, तब मनी सप्लाई कम हो जाएगी क्योंकि मैं लोन कम अमाउंट का दे सकता हूं. The question in UPSC said, what will happen to the money supply immediately? Immediately there will be no impact because no loan is being created. But the moment the bank has to create a loan, the loan amount with which the bank can create is less now. In fact, if you understand the concept of multiplier कैसे कम होगा? जैसे डिपॉजिट कम होंगे. What is the concept of multiplier? Money supply is multiplier times the monetary base. Now, if someone is withdrawing currency from the bank, that means currency deposit ratio will fall or rise. Currency is to deposit. If someone is withdrawing the money from the bank, what will happen to the currency deposit ratio? The currency deposit ratio will increase. If the currency deposit ratio increases, what happens to multiplier? Decreases. So money supply कम होगी नहीं होगी? So when the bank has to create the loan, money supply will reduce because the multiplier effect will come into play. But it will come into play only when the loan has to be made. Immediately कोई impact नहीं होगा because immediately loan नहीं है. So the word there important was immediately. So you can't just learn the formula कि ये होता है तो money supply कुछ नहीं होगा. अगर यही होगा तो money supply कभी बढ़ेगी नहीं फिर. Money supply all is created based on what deposit you give to the bank. The more deposit you give, the more loans can be created. So if you are withdrawing money from the bank, bank has less money to give out as loans. Less money to give out as loans, that means multiplier falls, money supply will fall. So when after 2 days, even after 2 days, someone comes to take a bank loan, he wants 5 lakh rupees. But आपके पास है ही 4 लाख क्योंकि 1 लाख आपसे कोई ले गया है. तो आप लोन इतना ही दे सकते हो, ये नहीं दे सकते हो. एक्स्ट्रा 1 लाख पे आपको 90,000 ही लोन और मिलता, 4.9 का लोन जाता. Now maximum you can give here is 10% if you have to keep aside. Maximum you will give is 3.6. But if you have 5 lakh, the maximum you can give is 4.5. In 90,000 का difference आया because 1 lakh rupees someone had taken outside. Immediately no impact. This is why immediately was important. But if the word immediately is not there, money supply will definitely fall. In 4 lakh case, I can give a loan of 3.6. In 5 lakh case, I can give a loan of 4.5. 1 lakh पे जो 90,000 का लोन होता वो नहीं हो पाएगा because people have withdrawn the money. Is the idea clear?
सर लेकिन इसमें इमीडिएट इफेक्ट बैंक की साइड से कुछ नहीं हुआ, लेकिन इकोनॉमी में तो आ गए ना 1 लाख रुपए.
नहीं,
Supply
इकोनॉमी
तो आ गए
में
ना.
that person already had 1 lakh rupees, whether it was in the bank or whether it was with him. Right? But what we were doing here is, when we were giving it to bank ने इसका लोन दिया 90,000 का, तो सेम टाइम पे 1 लाख भी और 90 भी है. बट अगर एक उन्होंने अपने पास रखा तो 90 नहीं है. दिस इज द होल मैजिक ऑफ द बैंक. और फिर ये 90,000 में लेके लंदन चला जाता हूं. यही होगा ना फिर. वो पैसे किसके हैं? इट्स नॉट पब्लिक, इट्स बैंक्स मनी. बैंक ने तो आपको 1 लाख ही देना है. ये थोड़ी है वो लोन भाग गया तो आपकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, वो बैंक का रिस्क है. बैंक तो आपको 1 लाख ही देगा, बट वो बैंक है किसका? तो लॉस किसका है? और गवर्नमेंट के पास पैसे कहां से आए? ये है लॉस. If the bank is publicly owned, that means this bank is running on taxpayers' money. तो लॉस टैक्स पेयर का ऐसे हुआ, ऐसे नहीं कि आपके पैसे लेके ही भाग गए, वो आपका ही 1 लाख था जो लेके चला गया बाहर. Nothing to do with anything real. It's a fictitious story which I'm creating. Has absolutely nothing real events. Is the idea clear? वो तो चले गए, मैं यही हूं. Is the idea clear? Why no impact immediately, but definitely will have an impact on money supply in the future. And the future could be just one day. Immediately has a lot of significance in that question. So you can't just blindly learn CU plus DD, money supply did not change. Is the idea clear? See, this first part of what we have discussed right now was all of your macroeconomics. Macroeconomics में से you get half of the paper, 7 to 8 questions, and this is where your concepts are tested. And the concepts, if anything is happening in the real world, though, that concept is more likely to be asked. For example, last year there was a question, when there is inflation in the economy, the central bank tried to control inflation by increasing interest rate. And the second statement was, there has been rising inflation in the world in the past 1 year. Now this is something which was happening, and the question was checking your basic concepts. So this is all about your understanding. If you have understanding, these 7 to 8 questions will not be a problem. Now the second part of the paper is Indian economy. Indian economy में what they do is they ask questions on two things. One is, first you need to know how the economy is organized. You should know the basics of the sector. For example, fertilizer is the first topic here. In that they'll ask, what basic questions they can ask is, who pays the fertilizer subsidy? Does the government control the marketing or not? What is the subsidy mechanism in any of these fertilizers? Or they can ask a question on what the performance has been. जो major macroeconomics के trends हैं वो, या particular sector में what the performance has been, that is, what exactly are the issues faced in that sector and what the government is doing about those issues. And that is nothing but the schemes and policies. So this part of the exam is schemes, policies or basic organization. And both of them are completely factual in nature. If you understand the issues, you will be able to solve this. But if you don't understand the issue, you will not be able to solve. Randomly learning schemes is not going to give you any benefit, because at any point of time learning 300 400 schemes will, without knowing what the context is, will be absolutely impossible. Kitna try kar lo. Then you will before the exam complain 500 scheme है 500 छोड़ दी. अब you know what the topic is कि आएगी scheme जरूर, but strategy में problem था इसलिए you did not prepare the schemes. So this part only will talk about this or this. So therefore you will have to read holistically, you will have to prepare all the basics of the sector, including learning the facts here. For example, last year there was a question, small farmer, large field. Now small farmer, large field was not at all a difficult question. Because if you have been following Indian agriculture, you know the basic organization of the agriculture sector. India has a problem of small farmers. अब small farmers का solution क्या है? Small farmers का solution है either form them into cooperatives or farmer producer organization. Small farmer large field is another name for cooperative or farmer producer organization. So even if you did not know the exact meaning, you could know कि issue क्या है तो क्या problem हो सकती है और क्या answer हो सकता है. This is all based on what you know about the sector. So even if you don't know the phrase. Another question was, Niger is this kharif crop, उस पे MSP है. 2018 they had asked a question, these are the 6 crops, out of these 6 crops on which the MSP is applicable. So already 2018 you knew that there is a question on MSP. You should have known what Niger crop is, because Niger crop is one of those MSP crops. तो वो basic organization है sector का. Randomly ये schemes आपको याद नहीं होंगी if you don't know what the context is. Last year there was another statement on production linked incentive scheme, whether it is applicable for both foreigners and domestic investors or not. Now this is something happening in the economy. Industrial investments के लिए we have a scheme called production linked incentive. So whatever the problem is, you need to focus here. उसके solution तभी याद होंगे. I'll give you a brief overview on some of the schemes, but we'll not discuss all. It's all about facts. यहाँ पे focus करना है. And this organization, basic material, whatever you have read. Because a lot of questions are on basics also. यहाँ पे understanding, थोड़ी बहुत analysis यहाँ है. Otherwise there's no understanding. If the government says this is the scheme, you will have to learn the scheme. There's no question कि ये क्यों कर रहे हैं. There's no question in that. Question यहाँ पे हो सकता है concept में. This should be a secure part. Once you know the concepts, revision you need practice. Practice, you will get this 7 to 8 correct. यहाँ पे कोई chance ही नहीं गलत होने का if you understand the concept. This is where you need to prepare. This is already prepared. So if you are done here, you just need to practice certain questions on your understanding. Whether you know the concept completely or not. Here is what you need to learn, or what we can say is you need to revise. See, learning is never a thing which is required in prelims, क्योंकि answer हमेशा सामने है. तो कुछ याद तो करना नहीं है, बस सामने confidence से उठाना कि ये सही है. तो this is something you don't have to. So in these two places, you need to be certain. You need diverse sources so that you are exposed to maximum information. Maximum information, but the pattern will always be issues and solutions. तो जो problem है और क्या solutions है, उस पे if you work, you need to read diverse. बार बार same चीज भी करनी है और diverse भी जाना है. तभी यहाँ पे 7 to 8 questions what they ask, you can get maximum. Out of 16 questions, 13 to 14 are always you will be able to solve. 1 or 2 questions, there are always certain difficult questions, उस पे strategy नहीं बन सकती. For example, if you don't know what beta is, you don't know what beta is. You can't solve it in the paper. But that beta was only one question. एक maximum दूसरा मुश्किल था, वो UN में they had asked her कि which of the standards is not included in sustainable something. That is a fact, you don't know, you don't know. So 2 questions is something which you can always leave in a particular paper. But 13 to 14 जिसमें से 8 question ये वाले तो गलत नहीं होने चाहिए. The moment you get these 12 to 13 correct, you are almost done for the exam. हर subject में 4 subjects में 12 to 13 correct from those basics, lying on those fronts, you will be able to solve. You have to understand there are some questions for which the strategy cannot be prepared, for which the questions have to be left in the exam. Ego पे नहीं लेना है कि 100 करना है. You have to, at the end of the day, you'll realize who is going to fail. So you have to be very smart while picking the questions. 80, 85 is the maximum, and economics mein, this is what the trend holds in the last 15 years. Be sure on this, practice this, and when you solve this, do not second think what the answer is, usi time OMR fill karo. If you see in the last 3 years, what is happening, the paper is getting lengthier. In every question, if you're going to double think, दोबारा पढ़ने में इतना time लग जाएगा कि OMR के लिए time नहीं होगा. So for these 7 to 8 questions, you should be locked. The what we discussed in the first 3 days, you should be a lock कि ये question यही है, answer यही है. Don't think again and again. थोड़ा बहुत thinking एक आध question में चाहिए, सब पे नहीं. So don't leave those questions. So यहाँ पे you should be sure. So now if you practice understanding पे, practice those questions and see where your understanding lies. यहाँ पे you have to widen your scope. So whatever new information you get, for example, state can levy a cess or not, whatever new information you can get from whatever sources, whether you are reading or whether you are solving papers, don't use it as a test paper to check yourself what you know. वो यहाँ पे करो. यहाँ पे don't check yourself that I'm getting 10 marks, I'm getting -10. You don't have to get anything. You only have to make your sources diverse so that जो 7-8 वहाँ है वो solve हो जाए. What you are doing right now doesn't matter. What will happen in the exam, that is what matters. And nobody knows, you don't have to answer anyone के answer आया कहाँ से, चाहे कहीं से आया हो, mains में देखेंगे. You don't have to answer anyone. सही तो उठाना, तो diverse, just pick out information on these two fronts, organization and performance, because this is how the pattern has been. You will not score marks because these are all facts. इसमें marks आएंगे, इसमें नहीं आएंगे. So collect those multiple facts so that you have enough facts to solve the paper even if you don't know directly. वहाँ application of mind चाहिए होगा कि जितना आता उसके basis पे let us solve this question even if you have not heard of this term. Small farmer, large field, even you have not heard, you should be able to attempt that question. ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा agriculture में क्या ही होगा? Because if you understand the organization, 3-4 problems से ज़्यादा है ही नहीं problem. So solution भी small farmer, large field, and the name itself suggests स्मॉल फार्मर लार्ज फील्ड. तो कैसे लार्ज फील्ड होगी? एक दूसरे को लैंड थोड़ी देंगे, साथ में काम करेंगे. वही सेकंड और थर्ड वाज द ऑप्शन. यू हैव टू बी कॉन्फिडेंट दैट आई नो फ्रॉम माई बेसिक इन्फॉर्मेशन द आंसर इज करेक्ट. वहां पे 100% श्योर नहीं होना है. यू जस्ट हैव टू पिक आउट द राइट आंसर विच इज द मोस्ट अप्रोप्रिएट बेस्ड ऑन व्हाट यू हैव अंडरस्टूड ऑफ द इंडियन इकोनॉमी. अंडरस्टैंडिंग बेस्ड क्वेश्चंस में तो वहां स्कोप ही नहीं है. वहां तो नहीं आता तो नहीं आता, गलत होगा तो गलत होगा. इसलिए यहाँ प्रैक्टिस चाहिए, अंडरस्टैंडिंग चाहिए. यहाँ पे इंफॉर्मेशन चाहिए. You need to know the information on basics and this. Is the idea clear? For example, the first topic here is fertilizer sector. Now the basics of fertilizer. How is the government distributing the fertilizer subsidy? How is the government distributing fertilizer subsidy? There are 3 major nutrients required. Nitrogen, these are the macros. Phosphorus and potassium. Nitrogen का the fertilizer is urea. For phosphorus it is diammonium phosphate and single superphosphate, and for K is muriate of potash. A very basic information is, do we have domestic production of any of these? इन दोनों की domestic production है, इसका complete import है. So this is the basics of the sector which you should know. That MOP, for example, the second topic in fertilizer itself is phosphorus. अब phosphorus में हमारे पास raw material नहीं है. We still have production. बाहर से आता है imports, but raw material नहीं है. Both of them are both domestically produced, and also you have imports. Now consider urea. What is the energy source required for urea? This is where the government schemes have been till 2015. There are 2. One is natural gas and the other is naphtha. The new urea policy, which came in 3 phases, was all about shifting the fertilizer plant of urea from naphtha to natural gas. Now with this you should know how natural gas, because natural gas coming from 3 types of blocks, the price and the marketing is decided by government. जो till 2014 तक हमने ब्लॉक्स दिए हैं, till 2016, उन सब की गैस प्राइस भी गवर्नमेंट बताती है, मार्केटिंग भी गवर्नमेंट बताती है. So I can definitely tell them to give to you this plant. So this is something, you know, 2018 में this was the question. Naphtha or natural gas is one of the feedstock for urea manufacturing. ये basics of the sector you should know. For example, fertilizer. Right now the 2 schemes, you would not know what the meaning is until unless you understand the organization or issues. जब तक पता नहीं है sector में है क्या और issues क्या हैं, you will not be able to solve the question. Then the question would be giving a fact without having any context behind it. फिर वो याद नहीं होगा whether it is PM Pranam or whether organic fertilizers. You will not be able to remember until you start from the base. Now, how is the subsidy given? In case of urea, the government decides the price. The government will fix the price, and all the manufacturing plants will sell at this price only. The difference between this price and manufacturing cost, this will be given as subsidy, and subsidy to the manufacturer. So only on one product in fertilizer is the price controlled by the government. In the next two, the price is free. You can fix whatever price. The government is going to give you a fixed subsidy. And how is the government fixing the subsidy? The government fixes the subsidy on per kg of the fertilizer. This is called as the nutrient based subsidy scheme. So यहाँ पे it is administered price, यहाँ पे price is free, but the government gives a fixed subsidy. So this price minus subsidy is what the farmer gets. Both cases में subsidy indirect है, farmer को subsidized product मिल रहा है. One at government cost, the other at the cost which is decided by the manufacturer. In this case, what happens to imports in urea? In this case of the PNK fertilizer, prices are free, चाहे import हो चाहे domestic हो. Government will give a fixed subsidy based on the quantity of nutrient. In case of urea, the imports are also fixed at the government price. Same price पे होगा चाहे import है या domestic. The difference between the imported price and the fixed price is paid by the government as subsidy to the importer. And since this is a very profitable business, बाहर से लाओ और यहाँ पे government price पे दो, government से subsidy लेते जाओ. This is a licensed business. Only 3 importers are allowed to import urea. It is a canalized business. That means license के बिना nobody can import urea. Government has given license to only 3. Is the idea clear? Pricing is government determined. Pricing is free. यहाँ पे subsidy is not fixed. Subsidy is fixed. Price is fixed. Price is free. Subsidy is not fixed. Subsidy is fixed. Is the idea clear? Now what is happening here? Ministry of Agriculture determines on the previous year data what exactly is the fertilizer usage in different parts. Based on that, the Ministry of Chemical Fertilizers, chemicals, they are the ones which are going to estimate the production. Now how is the government controlling the price is clear? Urea में price control है नहीं है. Here the marketing of fertilizer is also controlled by the government because fertilizer is an essential commodity under Essential Commodity Act 1955. Under the Essential Commodities Act 1955, fertilizer is an essential commodity. So government can intervene its prices, can intervene in its marketing. Now how the government over the year has controlled marketing? 50% of the urea produced in the country where it will be sold is to be decided by the government. 20% of PNK fertilizers where they will be sold, this is also decided by the government. So marketing of 50% urea and 20% of DAP and MOP is controlled by the government. They decide where exactly the urea, 50% of the production and 20% here, where they will be sold. 2010 when they introduced NBS, they reduced the marketing control to 20%. Under the new urea policy, in 2005, they reduced urea marketing to 50%. Now, this is how you prepare the basics of the sector. Government controls the urea price, controls 50% of its marketing. 20% here does not control the price. In fact, this nutrient-based scheme is not just for these 3 fertilizers. Apart from urea, jitne bhi fertilizers are 28, 30 fertilizers, all of them are under nutrient-based scheme. Only one fertilizer, the price is controlled, that is your urea. Is the idea clear? ये सारे statement पूछ चुके हैं in the previous years. Now, how the subsidy is being given? The subsidy is given. 2018, they have rectified the mechanism of giving the subsidy because there's a lot of diversion here. The manufacturer will supply the material to a retailer, जिसमें से हम 50% हम decide करेंगे कहाँ जाएगा and 20% for DAP MOP. The retailer is going to then sell it to the farmer. Now what the mechanism here is, retailer is going to authenticate the farmer with Aadhaar and biometric. There's an authentication here, and the moment the transaction is recorded in an electronic point of sale machine, this information gets uploaded on a central portal which is called as the e-Urvarak portal. यहाँ पे जैसी information आएगी, weekly the government is going to transfer the subsidy to manufacturer. This they are calling as direct benefit transfers, because one of the difference of direct and indirect subsidy is that direct subsidy is given to farmer in case of cash, in form of cash. Indirect subsidy is that the farmer receives the subsidized product. Another classification of direct and indirect subsidy is, direct subsidies are those which are given to the farmer, whether through a product or price. And indirect subsidies are those which benefit the agriculture sector as a whole and then benefit the farmer. For example, if I built an irrigation plant, that canal infrastructure, तो वो indirect subsidy है farmer के लिए. But if I give him urea bag, that becomes a direct subsidy. So there are two classifications. Sometimes the classification comes on this, कि एक direct benefit मिल रहा है और एक indirect benefit मिल रहा है. The other form of direct and indirect classification is, one is direct in the form of cash and the indirect in the form of product. Is the idea clear? So the government calls the 2018 this reform as a direct benefit transfer reform, that we are giving farmer after authentication the urea bag. Because problem ये था, manufacturer जैसे ही material निकालता था, that would have been diverted. तो अब वो जब farmer के पास जाएगा तभी आपको पैसे मिलेंगे. Previously it was being diverted. The government did two things to stop the diversion. First, the government started coating it with neem coated urea. Neem oil ka bhi they started procuring a lot. Neem coated urea had what benefits? Ab UPSC asked this also. Okay, what is the benefit of neem coating urea? So you understand, problem pata hogi to solution pe question aata hai. It is not coming out of the blue. Fertilizer ka that asked a question, soil health card ka benefit kya hai? Until and unless you understand the sector, you understand the problem, you will not be able to solve the solution. Without the context, you will not be able to learn the solution. Now in this neem coated urea, what is the benefit? First, it will stop the diversion to industry. What else? The dissolution of the fertilizer has been stopped, or slow. Slow dissolution means better application efficiency. This is why neem coating urea. The second thing the government did to stop the overutilization of urea in the agriculture field was to reduce the size of the bag from 45 to 50 to 45 kg. Now these are some of the reforms which the government is doing to stop the diversion, stop the overutilization. Now this has still a very big loophole. Earlier manufacturer जैसे ही अपने यहाँ से निकाल रहा था सामान, he was getting the subsidy. Now he's not getting the subsidy on direct selling. That is, whenever it leaves the factory gate, it is receiving the subsidy when the farmer receives the product. So actual transaction pe he is getting the subsidy. Now in this case, there is still a problem that now this is the point of smuggling. Because the government has a policy which says no denial to any farmer. That means there is no limit on the bags that can be issued. Since there is no limit on bags, some farmers can take most of the subsidy and then set up a black market. And this happens mostly in case of urea. Why? Because urea ka the price is determined by the government. Price is determined by the government and manufactured price. In सब में difference बहुत है. So if it is somewhere around 17 to 24,000 per ton, government price is 5,000 per ton. इतना बड़ा difference है, that means black marketing के लिए बहुत बड़ा scope है. And the problem is, if the manufacturer knows the difference is to be paid by the government, will the manufacturer ever improve its efficiency? This is what the government is facing. Start fertilizer plant, green revolution 1970s में किए थे. अभी तक we are not sufficient on urea. Because the subsidy disincentivizes capacity addition because the difference is to be paid by the government. In fact, government every year assigns first the manufactured cost, delivered cost, what exactly it should be, but it is quite high as compared to what the government is setting. Last 10 years say they have not revised the urea price. This is why the difference is too much. The urea is overutilized, the NPK ratio is highly distorted. Ideal ratio is said to be 4:2:1. In most areas 30:9:10 or 9:1, क्योंकि सबसे ज़्यादा यूरिया ही एक्सप्लॉइट होता है, सबसे सस्ता यूरिया है. इसी को रोकने के लिए द गवर्नमेंट केम अप विद सॉइल हेल्थ कार्ड. You get to know what you have in the soil and then only use the bags. So what the sector is, you have three major fertilizers. These are the macros, इससे वे micronutrients में. These are the major things required. Nitrogen is the major source. Controlled by the government, where price of urea is controlled and 50% marketing is controlled. PNK fertilizer में only 20% of its marketing is controlled. Price is not controlled by the government. How exactly do they give the subsidy? The subsidy is received on the actual transfer when it is done by the farmer. But there is a no denial policy. In fact, what the exact policy is, that on one visit you can take 100 bags, but there is no limit on the visits you do. That means effectively there is no limit on bags you take. The second step of reform which the government is planning here is to place a limit on bags. Now, how do you place a limit on bags? कि कितना एक farmer ले सकता है? You need to know two things. One, you need to have the land record, and second, you need to know the soil health information. Then the second step government is trying to do is, once this is done, why not give the money in the account of the farmer and let him buy from the market? ये diversion का जो cost का process है, that will end. Let the manufacturer produce at whatever price. We will distribute the subsidy in the farmer's account and the farmer will directly buy it. But until and unless you have this information, you will not be able to do that. So in the present case, the government controls the marketing of 50% urea. Urea is also imported. MOP is completely imported. Muriate of potash, K is completely imported. Phosphorus के case में, we have certain domestic production, but the imports of the raw material phosphorus is highly significant. Mostly comes from Russia and Ukraine. This is why the second topic. Is the fertilizer sector clear? Now, one of the schemes of the government here is, PM का नाम तो है scheme में, प्रधानमंत्री, not the name of the PM actually, वो भी एक scheme है. That is your one nation, one fertilizer. Bharat. What they have done in that Bharat is, all of the fertilizer bags will carry a single brand name of Bharat. यहाँ पे अपना brand लगा सकते हो, but भारत होगा. This is done so that farmers get to know central sector subsidy है, state नहीं देती, center देती है. See, this is Bharat, this is a marketing reform. Idea यही है उसके पीछे. Second is that even if फर्टिलाइजर की डिमांड कहीं भी हो रही है कंट्री में, सबको सेम मिल रहा है, तो ऐसा नहीं है दूर से आएगा फर्टिलाइजर. So if someone is preferring fertilizer coming from one part, they will take from the nearest one because everyone is selling the same brand name. तो ट्रांसपोर्टेशन लॉजिस्टिक्स में आसानी होगी because every fertilizer will come with the same brand name. PM Pranam, what is this policy or scheme? Just read what you understand from this. What do you mean by that? कैसे पता चलेगा?
इसे जो आपने बताया स्कीम सोयल हेल्थ कार्ड और ऐसी स्कीम्स का ऐसी स्कीम्स को एफिशिएंटली इंप्लीमेंटेशन करने से.
So what exactly is the government doing? कि ये रेशो बनी रहे.
सोयल हेल्थ कार्ड जैसी स्कीम को एफिशिएंटली इम्प्लीमेंट.
How do you know?
सर इसी स्कीम को एफिशिएंटली इम्प्लीमेंट करने से ही तो जो फार्मर है वो एफिशिएंटली वो बैलेंस.
See, this is how you don't know. तो वो पेपर में भी यही होगा कि शायद ये हो सकता है. What is PM Pranam? अब यही वो है, क्या कहानी लिखो इसके पीछे. What is PM Pranam?
जो स्टेट्स की कैपेसिटी होती है ना, जितना उन्होंने फर्टिलाइजर्स यूज़ किया है, उसके अगर वो कम करते हैं तो उनको उतना इंसेंटिव मिल जाएगा.
Someone on this lines, if what we are going to do is, on the past 3 years average usage of your fertilizer, which we are going to know from your, not the health card, the integrated fertilizer management system. यहाँ से we are going letting know कि कितना marketing हो रहा है कहाँ पे. So we have all information about the state. So how the fertilizer is being marketed, Ministry of Agriculture calculates how much is required. Ministry of Chemical Fertilizers will know or plan for the production. 50% हम बताएंगे कहाँ जाएगा, 20% for this. This integrated fertilizer management system records the complete usage of fertilizers in different states. How much was fertilizer supplied to all states. Now, if any of the states have certain savings on fertilizer usage, the money saved on that fertilizer savings, we are going to pass 50% of the savings to the government. So there is no extra money which is going to come for the scheme. 50% of the savings which you will make, अगर सारी subsidy center दे रही है, whatever savings you will make, say for example you made a savings of 10 crore rupees, उसमें से 5 crore we are going to pass on to you, out of which 70% can be used for asset creation and 30% will be used for publicity programs to let the people know that organic fertilizer is good. तो इसमें extra कहीं से पैसा नहीं आ रहा है. From IFMS we will come to know we have made a savings for us because सारा subsidy is coming from center. Whether it is urea, DAP or MOP, all of the subsidies coming from center government. Whenever we have a savings of fertilizers, we are going to pass on the 50% savings to you. Those 50% of the savings can be utilized 70% here and 30% here. 30% information education programs and 70% that you can use for creation of any asset. Is the idea clear? The scheme does not have any money from outside. This is the PM Pranam scheme. Is the idea clear? How you have to prepare all of these topics, whatever has been covered, agriculture or any other sector, whether it is industry, services, infrastructure, logistics, all of these sectors you have to prepare with the same perspective. First you need to understand ये solve क्या कर रहा है और वो solve कर कैसे रहा है. The pattern which you will use is just like we discussed the fertilizer sector. The pattern to be used here is you understand the first basics of the sector, understand its issues. अब issue का जो solution होगा, उस solution में you have to do three things. Which ministry is implementing the solution? What is the target population? और target में कुछ eligibility criteria है कि नहीं है? What will the objective be? कि कौन सा particular problem target कर रहा है? And how are we going to solve it? That is what the feature is. Now these are the 5 things which you need on Indian economy. Macroeconomic, fiscal deficit and all, balance of payment we've already discussed. वो इकट्ठे वहीं पे हो जाएगा. Because whatever you know the classification of balance of payment, what is India doing, that you also have to prepare there itself. But sector specific performance is this pattern. Just like we discussed the basics of fertilizer sector, कि वो sector organized कैसे है. More terms coming in the news become more probable for the exam. Then discuss the issues. For example, if you see the pattern on other schemes also, Anemia Mukt Bharat, if you see in the last 2 years, 2-3 problems only which the government is talking about in health, whether it is iron deficiency or the second is diabetes. So Ayushman Bharat or Jan Arogya scheme, these become important. The second was the Janani Suraksha Yojana. If you just read, this was institutional pregnancy and also aftercare. तो वो scheme 3 बार पूछ चुके हैं पहले भी exam में. So if you situate the question in a context, you will always find its relevance. You cannot prepare without a context. यही समझना है अगले 50 पेज में. And in these 50 pages, what you have to realize is, not all topics might have the same relevance for the exam. You will have to check what exactly is the probability of the topic that can come in the exam और कैसा question आ सकता है. So it's not that 50 pages would require के complete facts mug up करने, सब prepare करना है. Though probability you will have to take a chance where you will prepare from the a pattern ये है तो ये आ सकता है. This needs more focus, this needs slightly less focus. So not all 50 would be equally important. The first 50 were all equally important. Next 50 you will have to check agriculture is more important or services में ये particular sector. For example, medical tourism is more important. Now probability medical tourism की भी है, but कितनी high है probability you will have to take a chance. So this is all 50 pages information. This is the broader spectrum you have to use to prepare and then answer. Same thing whenever you are reading a newspaper. Newspaper से ज़्यादा question होता है because वो context में लिखता है. This is why we say never stop reading the newspaper even till the day of the exam, because you never know what problem is being talked about again and you can have a question direct. Because newspapers are always written in a story format, they will always situate the larger issue within certain context. तो वो याद भी हो जाता है. Magazine sometimes you will not be able to situate because of fertilizer में सब कुछ नहीं पता होगा. PM प्रणाम में 50% savings कैसे हो रही है? How would you know 50% savings is come from what? Until and unless you know कि fertilizer की marketing and price government controlled है. Essential Commodities Act में fertilizer is essential. Is the idea clear? The other topic, second topic is you can just go over through the fertilizer also. कुछ रह तो नहीं गया. Market development assistance for promoting organic fertilizers. Because of overuse of fertilizers, organic fertilizers में market development assistance. Introduction of sulfur coated urea. Urea gold because deficiency of sulfur. Covering, so you can have a question, urea gold means what? Similar, you can have a question on nano urea also. What's the benefit of nano urea? Small, so efficiency is high. and the cost of bottle of that small nano urea is equally efficient as the subsidized price. तो पूरी savings हो जाएगी government की on subsidy. So whatever the subsidized price today of the urea bag is, the same will come as the price of the urea, which is highly efficient as compared to that bag. So the government will have high cost savings on nano urea. Phosphorus important because DAP का पूरा import is coming from outside. Minor irrigation, and just go through what exactly it means. Bharatiya Bij Sahakari Samiti Limited, basic idea about the organization. Same with seed certification. See, in subtopics mein now you have to check the probability. That what exactly is the probability of this topic being turning into the exam, and then I need to prepare it comprehensively or not. यहाँ पे वही आपको relevancy based on your probability what you think is going to come in the exam. You have to be highly selective in the last three months. This would not have been a choice if you were doing it 1 year back. तब time होता है. अब 3 months you will have to check what exactly is the probability and read accordingly. You will have to be smart how you use the resource. This is why the maximum time was spent on the first 3 classes, the first 350 pages. क्योंकि वहाँ सब concepts है. There you cannot understand by reading what exactly this line means. यहाँ पे it's completely fact है. Problem ये है, solution ये है. Food storage in India. Now this is where you need to understand what PAX is. What is the idea of Primary Agriculture Credit Society? And what exactly are they doing with PAX? What is the program? What is PAX, Primary Agriculture Credit Society? This is an important concept. Cooperative, what does it do? And how is it different? What does it do? We'll come to this only. PAX is a credit society as the name suggests. Banks can be of 2 types. One can be commercial. Whether commercial banks are owned by private sector or they are owned by government. Nationalized banks are all commercialized banks. Commercial banks means that they work for profit. Why do they work for profit? Because everything is decided for their shareholders. जिसका जितना shareholding है, shares decide what the decision making is, right? And private में shareholders will decide maximum profit. Government में shareholder is the government, so you can have profit plus welfare. This is why most of the Jan Dhan Yojana accounts was opened by SBI. So all of the commercial banks are run for the shareholders perspective. Now when it is run from the shareholder perspective and the shareholder perspective is profit, these banks might not open up in rural areas and might not give credit to people who are not credit worthy. Credit worthy means they might not have a collateral or they might not have any income source. Bank will always check on these 2 things, whether to advance a loan or not, the present income source and what your perspective is of the future. Future में income हो सकती है कि नहीं होगी, because this is how you will pay for the loan. Without these, the bank is not going to give out a loan. The government can help on these front. For example, the government can help cover the collateral. When the government helps cover the collateral, these are called as your credit guarantee schemes. MSMEs के लिए हैं credit guarantee, self-help groups के लिए हैं credit guarantee. There are a number of credit guarantees for different sectors so that they can get a loan without a collateral. The credit guarantee sometimes in various schemes is taken by the government. For example, the emergency credit guarantee scheme which started in COVID. Before that, there was a credit guarantee for MSMEs also. Emergency credit guarantee scheme was introduced during the COVID years. उसके 3-4 phases government ने निकाले थे, where the government covers the credit guarantee. For this, the government has an agency also, the National Credit Guarantee Corporation of India Limited. ये cover करता है guarantee. In fact, how you can relate it? Yesterday we discussed the corporate debt market development fund. Remember this concept? What this fund does? It buys securities from mutual funds. How will it buy these securities from mutual funds? It gets money from asset management companies and specific debt, specific mutual funds. इन दोनों से पैसे आता है. One of the features of this corporate debt market fund is that they can also take leverage from banks. They can also take loans from banks from buying the securities. Now, if they want to take loan from banks, the bank requires a security. This body will cover the guarantee. So the government has given the function to this to cover the credit guarantee function of corporate debt market development fund. So ये credit guarantee schemes mostly यही चलाते हैं, where they provide credit guarantee for people who cannot provide, and the credit guarantee is assured by the government. Right? Now what if it is not covered by the government and there is no income source? So you will have a problem where people having small business or agriculture, they will not be able to find loans. This is where cooperative banks help. Now, what is a cooperative bank? Cooperative bank is a member-owned organization. Member-owned organization where they are democratically run. That means one member, one vote. Here, voting was based on how much shares you're holding. And since you are profit run, this body will have a hierarchical organization where you will have proper professional management. Because आपका long-term profit motive है. Here you have democratic management, where the members themselves are deciding how to work. This is the idea of whether it is cooperative farming, cooperative bank, cooperative marketing. सारे cooperatives का same idea. Self-help group is also a cooperative. That all cooperatives are democratic organizations which are serving the members only. Democratically run for the members. When it is a cooperative bank can give loans only to members, but can take deposits from everyone. This is how they help the members. बैंक लोन नहीं दे रहा है तो अपना कोऑपरेटिव बनाया है जो डिपॉजिट्स भी ले रहे हैं सबसे और लोन सिर्फ मेंबर्स को दे रहे हैं, which the commercial bank was not ready to do. Cooperative banks are of two types. One is urban cooperatives, which are also called as primary cooperative banks. Rural cooperative banks is a 3-tier structure. ये दो टाइप के बैंक्स होते हैं. One is for short-term lending and the other is for long-term. The long-term lending banks are also called as, what are they called? Specific नाम है इनका. What are they called? Mortgage banks. Mortgage banks are what they are called as land development banks. These are cooperatives in the rural areas for long-term purposes. Short-term purposes में you don't face asset liability mismatches. Long-term में you have that. So ये long-term ही deposits लेंगे और loans भी वही देंगे. हाँ, agriculture, rural development, this is what we are. Rural development banks, short-term, are of 3 types, and it's not types. In fact, it is a 3-tiered structure. At the bottom, you have primary agriculture credit society. On top, you have the district central cooperative bank, and at the top, you have the state cooperative. This is how the structure runs, where you get capital support from the layer above you. If you don't have money, you get capital support from the layer above you. And this state cooperative bank gets capital support from NABARD. Is the idea clear? The long term also has a 2-tiered structure where you have primary agriculture land development bank. In fact, तो थोड़ा नाम बड़ा है उससे. And the state cooperative land development bank. The name is something like this only. Land development banks at the state level and at the primary level. Now, this is how the structure works. Regulation of these two, who regulates this? First, who regulates this bank? Who regulates the urban cooperatives? 2 questions came on urban cooperatives in 2021 and 2022 because there was a change in management of urban cooperative banks in 2020. Banking Regulation Act got amended. 2021 UPSC asked 1 question, 2022 they asked another question. This is regulated by RBI and the organization purpose are regulated by state government. Cooperatives is a state subject where the state will regulate. If it is a multi-state cooperative, the center will do it. These banks are regulated by RBI. The problem with RBI here is that RBI does not have a resources to cover these banks. So regulation RBI का है, but day-to-day supervision and management happens through NABARD. तो supervision role ये है, regulation इन्हीं का है. तो rules यही बनाते हैं, ये supervise करते हैं कि काम सही हो रहा है कि नहीं. And along with that you have the, तो dual regulation तो है ही. The organization management functions regulated by state and the banking functions by RBI. The Banking Regulation Act 2020 that was enacted gave more powers of RBI to control these banks. They did not correct this, but gave them more powers. This was the idea of cooperative bank and its structure. Is the idea clear? Now this primary agriculture credit society is at the bottom. This is where maximum number of farmers and number of institutions which will solve the credit problem of the farmers. Now the government wants to use this structure for multiple purposes. Now government has 2 major plans for this. One, that India does not have storage capacity. We have food grain production upwards of 300 million tons. Roughly 311 million tons was last year. How much is the storage capacity in India? Roughly 145 million metric tons, MMT, 145. That means we have a significant gap. The government now, by converging various schemes, they have not launched a new scheme, converging various schemes is going to build storage infrastructure at this level. At the PAX level, the government is going to converge the already existing schemes to build storage capacity to bridge this gap. And secondly, the government says we are going to use the infrastructure of PAX and the already created these cooperative societies. One, they can be used for procurement by FCI. They can be used for, and also used for, since it is storage, it can be used for buffer. तो ये पॉइंट बना सकते हैं जो मार्केटिंग में हेल्प करे, मार्केटिंग टू द गवर्नमेंट, मार्केटिंग टू द मार्केट, ट्रेड इन द मार्केट विच ऑल्सो इंक्लूड्स फूड processing industry. So the government has a plan for using the PAX for building storage and using the PAX for improving the marketing infrastructure for farmers. Already where there is no APMC such as Bihar, PAX are the agencies which help the farmers market their produce, whether selling to the government or selling to the trader. Now why this is important? Because what the government considers a problem is that most of the farmers in India are small. If you have small farmers, the quantity of produce which they are producing is very less. If quantity is very less, how do they reach the market? So marketing becomes a problem because first market is far away and also produce कम है. So अगर ये cooperation है यहाँ पे, तो marketing भी solve हो जाएगी along with storage. Already we have a very good infrastructure or good structure of this primary agriculture credit society. The government is trying to solve two problems: storage, building infrastructure by converging all schemes, and trying to build PAX as the marketing point. This is what the idea of primary agricultural credit society using for building storage infrastructure. There are a number of schemes which are being converged here. These are the schemes identified for convergence, solving two purposes: storage infrastructure and marketing. Two major functions. It's not just about storage, marketing is already also included. So the function should be clear कि दोनों functions कौन से cover हो रहे हैं. You can have a question. The storage plan at PAX, establishing godowns at the PAX level, empowers PAX to engage in other roles: procurement centers, fair price shops, custom hiring centers, common processing unit. What are custom hiring centers? Custom hiring centers. What is it related to? Fair price shops are what? दोनों अलग हैं. Fair price shop का मतलब क्या है? Fair price shop is your ration shop, PDS. So PDS shop can be opened. Custom hiring centers is associated with mechanization of agriculture. The problem is if you have a small farmer and he does not have income, how he is going to procure a machine? So the custom hiring center, what they do is they buy the machine and then sell it on rent. So the machine will be at the custom hiring center. You can take it on rent from the custom hiring center. Government under the submission on agriculture mechanization is providing incentive for setting up more and more custom hiring centers. अब सारे इकट्ठे होंगे तो पैसे से आप मशीन यहीं पे रख सकते हो. Those who require the machine, they can take it on rent or hire. Machines on hire. This is custom hiring centers which the government is promoting under the submission on agriculture mechanization. So they can work as PDS, they can work as marketing, and also work as food processing industry. Is the idea clear? PAX, what exactly the benefit is. Price stabilization fund. This is also an important concept. Managing food inflation in India. See, this is the fact you can use in mains. Why there should be a subsidy, why there should be a legal MSP. The cereal exports banned by India cost farmers at least 45,000 crore in 2023. Because all of the policies which you followed to control inflation led to a price depression for the farmers. First thing which the government did was impose a export ban. The moment you are banning the exports, that means the better price opportunity which you can get in the global market is no longer available. Second thing the government did is government invoked the Essential Commodities Act 1955 and placed limits on storage. The moment you have storage limits, that means food processing players, private traders do not have control over their inventory. They will have to dilute it. And when this was applied for both rice and wheat for 1 year. 4 categories of players, the government had specific guidelines. हर month आपका हम stock check करेंगे, and this is the maximum you can keep. The third thing government did here was, Food Corporation of India ran a scheme called Open Market Scale Scheme. Since the supply was less, Food Corporation of India started diluting its buffer. Where under the Open Market Sale Scheme, they were directly first selling to states and also open for traders. In fact, there was a fiasco also over this scheme because Karnataka government had promised something in the elections. When they won the elections, the government stopped this scheme. The FCI was distributing it through states, so you should know the basics of the scheme. कि states को FCI दे सकता है, नहीं दे सकता, traders को देगा. So the 3 steps which the government took led to a loss of 45,000 crore rupees for the farmers. And how exactly does the government distribute? Is the idea clear? Inflation क्यों हुआ था in rice or wheat? Why the inflation in wheat first? Russia, Ukraine. Are we importers of wheat? फिर रशिया यूक्रेन हो चाहे कुछ हो, हमारे पास wheat अपना है. ग्लोबल सप्लाई वो ग्लोबल इन्फ्लेशन है. इंडिया में इन्फ्लेशन wheat का क्यों हुआ था? Specific reason, 6 million tons से ज़्यादा, 6 million metric tons से ज़्यादा production was destroyed. 111 was the estimate, 105 के आसपास was produced. Because of the heat waves at the time of harvest. Heat waves killed a lot of crops. Standing crop because of heat fell. Heat wave kills the crop, climate change. Why rice? Rice because of rainfall. Some parts got excessive, some parts had droughts. And if you do not have irrigation coverage, you will not be able to grow the crop. Rice needs significant irrigation. So जिन farmer के पास irrigation support था from groundwater, they could still get it. Those who did not faced a lot of problems. What is the irrigation coverage? How much of the agricultural land in India has irrigation coverage? It's only 51%. 49% is still covered under monsoons. 51%, maybe more than 65% of the land is covered under groundwater. It is not surface irrigation. So you have very less of surface irrigation, which is more efficient because groundwater irrigation depends on your capacity to install pumps. Those farmers who are rich and influential will have more power over the pumps, and since the groundwater is depleting, वो pump का cost उतना बढ़ता जाएगा. So electricity free also we say is a subsidy mostly received by people who have the capacity to get the pumps. Otherwise the farmers are still facing a problem because surface irrigation is much more efficient as compared to groundwater. This is why the problem in rice. Monsoon variability, global commodity, government policies, infrastructure. Basic idea about inflation. Now what are the various procurement mechanisms? In this you need to understand the procurement mechanism, then we'll understand price stabilization. Now what are the various government programs for procurement? Under which programs are the government procuring the crops? इसी में price stabilization fund is one scheme. Which crops or what exactly are the procurement mechanism? One is the most basic program under FCI, that is called as centralized procurement. Under the centralized procurement scheme, it is the FCI that procures the crop from the farmer and distributes it to the states which have a deficit. The states through their fair price shop distributes it to the beneficiary. So centralized procurement, 1964, Food Corporation of India Act, FCI will procure, distribute. This is the idea of centralized procurement, and FCI will also maintain what is called as the buffer, which is central pool of food grains. Government from time to time has regulations for how much the stock should be. The second is decentralized procurement. This scheme was introduced in 97 and roughly 24-25 states have signed for this. In this, the states will procure it directly from the farmer and distribute it to the fair price shop to the beneficiary. Decentralized procurement, where the state is procuring it from the farmers, this scheme is because of this. Because what was found out was, if FCI state जा रहा है और फिर states को दे रहा है, better is let the states procure it. And the cost of whole operations will be borne by center government. And these two mechanisms run only for those crops for which the government runs the PDS. That is, these two will run only for rice and wheat, जहां पे procurement होती है MSP पे. And FCI को surplus बनाना है, FCI कहीं भी जाए, it is a prerogative of FCI. They have an open procurement mechanism. That means whenever farmer is coming to give the crop, if it is eligible, that is fair average quality norms, we are going to procure entire quantity. There is no quantity limits which the FCI will have on any particular farmer. Quantity limits FCI खुद decide कर सकता है कि इस जगह से क्या लेना है, but जो farmer लेके आएगा उसका अगर fair average quality norms पे उनसे वो पूरा लेगा. So there is no individual limit for farmer. FCI can have an own estimate that I have to take this much from Haryana, this one from Punjab, this much from this state. वो उनके अपने limits हो सकते हैं, but farmer जितना limit लेके आएगा, they are going to take if it is fair average quality norms. Mostly it is about moisture content only. Same thing with states. The price is already decided, MSP is decided 6 months before. We know how much you utilize in PDS. So you can procure only that much amount. So the cost estimation hai, it happens before procurement. That we know how much you distribute, so how much money we'll give is already decided. Therefore, it is done so that no state gives more than MSP. Then center does not bear the cost. तो सेंटर को पहले एस्टिमेट है कितना डिस्ट्रीब्यूट आता है, उतना ही आप प्रोक्योरमेंट पे खर्च कर सकते हो. वी विल गिव यू द मनी. बोथ ऑफ दीज स्कीम्स द मनी कम्स फ्रॉम सेंटर. इज द आइडिया क्लियर? एंड इट इज फॉर द पीडीएस ऑपरेशंस, राइस एंड वीट, ओपन प्रोक्योरमेंट. नाउ व्हेन द एमएसपी सिस्टम वाज स्टार्टेड, व्हाट वाज द आइडिया ऑफ एमएसपी? वाज इट फॉर पीडीएस? द आइडिया ऑफ एमएसपी इन द कंट्री टिल डेट इज दैट इफ द मार्केट प्राइस फेल्स, वी आर गोइंग टू प्रोवाइड यू अ minimum. As the name suggests, we are not going to let the price fall below this. We are going to provide you a minimum if the market price will fail. That means if the market price in any state is failing, the government should procure at MSP. But the government is only procuring rice and wheat. तो वो तो PDS के लिए कर रहे हो आप. It's not for support of farmer. You are doing it as a regular operation for running your PDS. This is why this whole support is mostly for the consumer. क्योंकि आप MSP पे खरीदोगे और consumer को सस्ता दोगे. This is the scheme where MSP will operate. This is called as price support scheme. Under this scheme, a state government can notify that the market price has failed. And the moment they notify, for the crops on which MSP is announced, central government can undertake operations for procurement of that crop, where procurement is limited to 25% of the quantity produced in the state. So for MSP crops, if any state government notifies that market price has failed, in that particular state, the center government and its agencies can procure the crop up to a quantity of 25%. Why the idea of 25%? The government believes the moment 25% will be procured, बाकी का price उठ जाएगा. The market price has failed, 25% हमने procure किया, market price उठ जाएगा, we don't need support. In case there is more support required, the state government can notify, center can cross 25 also. But as a general rule, only 25% will be procured. If there is a special case, we can procure more also. And a very small condition के gunny bags और वो सब जो transportation का छोटा cost है वो state government का है. For example, state government will remove the mandi fees and take up the cost of the storage of this crop. But major cost सारी center bear करेगा. So you have 3 programs for procurement. One is centralized procurement and decentralized, which works mostly for PDS, and the price support, which works for the MSP system. That is, if the market price fail in that particular state is going to procure. Another scheme which the government runs is the market intervention scheme. The first 3 schemes were for MSP crops. Market intervention is for non-MSP crops. That is, certain horticulture commodities, notified hai kaun si commodities hai. Certain horticulture commodities, if the market price for them fails, the government is going to procure. Here what is happening, how it is different. First, ye non-MSP pe hai. And these 3 were working on MSP, where MSP was announced before sowing season. Market intervention is announced after we know price has failed. तो ये हमेशा automatically available नहीं है. Whenever we know market prices failed, how do we know market prices failed? If the production of the crop falls by 10% or the price rises by 10%, that means now there is a need for market intervention scheme. The moment this happens, the government announces a market intervention price. Then they are going to procure at this price. The state government procures, state government then sells the procurement. अगर profit आता है, then it is completely of the state. But अगर loss आता है, तो loss will be distributed between center and state. So for 22-23 odd crops you have MSP, PDS के लिए centralized, decentralized, price support के लिए this scheme. For non-MSP crops, it is the market intervention scheme. It happens when the price has actually failed. The price fails on these two conditions. Production falls by 10% or price rises by 10%. ये objective criteria है. ये होगा state will procure. In fact, center agencies can also help in procurement, but both center and state can procure. But liquidation of the produce is done by state. Procurement दोनों कर सकते हैं. NAFED, FS, these small farmers consortium, all of these can help in procurement. पर sell आप करोगे. Profit आपका, loss 50-50 center state का. So these four schemes are run under the administrative control of Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. The fifth procurement mechanism, is the idea clear? How MIS is different? Huh? ये है 10% प्रोडक्शन बढ़ जाए, कम हो जाए, या प्राइस 10% बढ़ जाए, मार्केट प्राइस इज फेल्ड. नहीं उल्टा है, प्राइस 10% कम हो जाए, प्रोडक्शन 10% बढ़ जाए, प्राइस तब फार्मर के लिए फेल होगा. इज द आइडिया क्लियर? MSP, non-MSP. Now the fourth scheme is for consumer. This is called as the Price Stabilization Fund. And this is not under Ministry of Agriculture, this is under Ministry of Consumer Affairs and Public Distribution. ये एक separate ministry में है. Now what is the idea of the Price Stabilization Fund? If the price of the crop increases, यहाँ उल्टा है, वहाँ पे सारा price fail हो रहा था. What if the price of the crop increases? Then the government is going to procure it whether from domestic or imports and sell it at an affordable price to consumer. The government can also build a buffer here. The government will build a buffer, can sell it to the consumer, but हम आपको लाके देंगे सस्ता, चाहे खुद यहाँ से या बाहर से. For doing these procurement operations, this is a 500 crore fund, जिसमें से पैसे मिलते हैं करने के लिए. Interest free loan given to center or state to do this activity. Another incentive was added here that if a state sets up a price stabilization fund, same activity state अपने level पे करता है, then out of this 50% of establishment fund, cost will be given by center. ये second of feature recently introduced कि अगर state अपना similar fund लाता है, 50% of establishment of the cost will be paid by center. Procurement अगर हम वो खुद करेंगे वो तो cost हम ही भरेंगे, but अगर state खुद बनाता है 50% उनको भी देंगे इसमें से. Idea is protect the consumers from high prices. There are certain notified commodities for which this will happen. The notified commodities are and last year they had used the price stabilization fund. See, notified commodities change हो सकती हैं. Initial it started with only onion and potato. The government again added pulses. Last year they did it for tomato. ये 4 crops notified हैं, उसमें ये notification change हो सकता है, crop change हो सकती है. But these 4 are there. For now these 4 are there. Idea is interest free loans given to center or state to procure the crops for distribution at less cost. If the state sets up the price stabilization fund of its own, 50% of the cost will be given by the center price stabilization fund. The fund is to be maintained by Ministry of Consumer Affairs and Public Distribution. This scheme is exact opposite of the first 4. The first 4 were price support for farmers when price fails. This is a price support for the consumer when the price rises. और हम इसमें दोनों चीज़ कर सकते हैं, डोमेस्टिक एंड इम्पोर्ट्स. इनफैक्ट व्हाट द गवर्नमेंट ट्राइज टू डू इज गवर्नमेंट ट्राइज टू बिल्ड अ बफर हेयर. पल्सेस का बफर बनाया था इसमें, so that they can liquidate according to the price situation. These are your 4 or 5 procurement mechanisms of the government. 4 for farmer and 5th one for consumer. So this is how the basics work. Price stabilization fund का ये concept है. This is for consumer, the first one for our farmers. MSP का idea was protection from price failure, but it became regular because of PDS. But it became regular only for rice and wheat. Price support, though the government says it will procure, procurement इसमें होती नहीं है. This is why the farmers are demanding a legal backing to MSP, because the procurement is hardly ever happening on this case. MIS for certain notified crops which are non-MSP. Price stabilization for consumer. Is the idea clear? 5 में procurement government कर रही है. Are the mechanics clear? प्राइवेट तो अपने आप कर सकते हैं ना. Why is this is all government procurement mechanisms. What examples? नहीं यही schemes है ना, नाम यही है. नहीं this is market intervention scheme, price stabilization fund scheme. ये scheme नाम ही यही है, नाम है इनके. वो तो मैंने क्लब करके procurement में इकट्ठे लिखे हैं. This is not the government doing. Just for your exam purposes, I have done the clarification. This is the name of the scheme, market intervention scheme, price stabilization fund. ये नाम है schemes के. So just to explain it, this is what I have done. Otherwise the government doesn't mention this. ये scheme का नाम ही नहीं मिलेगा कहीं, क्योंकि होता ही नहीं है इसमें procurement. नहीं directly from this. ENAM is what? ENAM is a procurement matching for this. Government तो जितना आसानी से procure हो उतना होगा ना. Transportation क्यों बढ़ाएगा government? What is the idea of ENAM? All India market for what? For how? From where are the farmers and traders coming? It is a network which links all of the APMCs on a digital market. It's not a random market created for farmer and trader. APMCs, roughly 600 APMCs in the countries are connected on that portal. So point of sale आपका APMC ही है. You bring your produce to the APMC. The APMC mandi is what helps you connect digitally to rest of the country. So the whole infrastructure of ENAM is about building digital interface in the mandis themselves. So government gives money for building the digital interface and also for providing the quality checks. So वो infrastructure is not just about digital infrastructure, it's also about the quality checks so that you can sell anywhere across the countries. This is not a random where farmer and trader meet. Trader in the country cannot trade without a license, without the permission of the state marketing board. Every state has its own agriculture produce marketing law. You have to follow the law, you have to buy according to the state government regulations. Farmer in the country is free, there is no regulation on farmer. The regulation is on trader. Farmer in the country has absolute no law, they are free to sell wherever they want. The law is on the trader. So trader को वो license रोकता है. This is why most of the states have now introduced one single license for the complete state so that they can participate. हर मंडी का अलग license लेना होता तो ENAM would be a failure because you cannot take a license for the different mandis every time you purchase. You can only take a license for the entire state. One point of market fees and one license is what has made the ENAM a success or what is can make ENAM a success. अगर administrative problems होती ENAM nobody would be able to participate. Right now also considering the transportation and the quality mistrust, very less amount of trade is executed on ENAM. नहीं MSP, market price failed. The state government will notify that yes it has failed. Condition है state government ने notify किया कि price fail हो गया है. No objective criteria. If they believe market price has failed, they will notify it, the center government will procure. Operation Greens is different. Operation Greens is about food processing. Operation Greens is tomato, 3 products it started, tomato, onion and potato, food processing support. I've given information there also. Operation Greens is about improving the food processing potential. It is not about price intervention. It started with top. It is Ministry of Food Processing to enhance value realization. तो ये food processing infrastructure पे 2 type के intervention होंगे. In the short term intervention, you will get subsidy support of 50% on transport and storage. It is about food processing. Long term में the market infrastructure will be built so that you have better availability of food processing. This is a completely different scheme, and it started with top, now it is total. 22 odd crops, including livestock also is included in this. It is a scheme of Ministry of Food Processing Industry. Two type of interventions. Long term, strengthen production clusters and FPOs. Short term, you get money for storage and transportation. 50% तक का coverage होता है transport and storage का. So this is different scheme altogether. Food processing industry. Better price realization for the farmer by covering three things: transport, storage, value addition. Long term में value addition, short term में problem transport and storage की.
सर ये एक डाउट है कि जो ई नाम ये पोर्टल है सर, उस पर कोई ट्रेडर है वो अपनी स्टेट में अलग अलग जो मंडी में जो प्राइस चल रहा है वो प्राइस सिर्फ कंपेयर कर सकता है या वो परचेज भी कर सकता है?
इट विल परचेज. कंपेयर करके क्या करेगा
सर? तो फिर वो मतलब सर तो फिर अगर वो दूसरे ये डिस्ट्रिक्ट की मंडी से उसे परचेज करना है तो ट्रांसपोर्टेशन कॉस्ट उसकी खुद की होगी.
वो तो फिर दे हैव अ नेगोशिएशन बिटवीन द टू. So you will get to know. We want the maximum, the transparent price discovery for the farmer. कि farmer को effective price कहाँ मिल रहा है. Limited not to his mandi, limited to the entire country कि everyone can bid for his produce. So he gets transparent price discovery. Problem इस market में यही है कि how is the farmer negotiating with the trader. If you get less number of traders and also traders are colluding, there will be a price drop. They will not have a transparent price discovery. But if I have thousands of people who are bidding for my produce, वहाँ पे collusion नहीं हो पाएगा. This is why ENAM is going to give the price discovery. ENAM is all about discovery of the price of the farmer. So, and discovery will happen if I have multiple people auctioning and not few. Same mandi में problem ये होता है, if I distribute less licenses, competition between the traders reduces and there's no good price. So ENAM is going to solve. ENAM was based on what? Which state had done this successfully? The center government adopted it. One state did it successfully, and therefore this. Not Kerala. केरला में APMC नहीं है. केरला में यू हैव दी कैश क्रॉप्स ज़्यादा हैं, सो दे हैव कमोडिटी बोर्ड्स. बोर्ड फॉर बनाना रेगुलेशन, बोर्ड फॉर पाइनएप्पल रेगुलेशन. दे हैव बोर्ड, कमोडिटी बोर्ड्स, कॉफी, टी, टर्मरिक, डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ बोर्ड्स फॉर रेगुलेटिंग. रेगुलेशन वहाँ पे भी है, बट इट इज नॉट दी APMC एक्ट. केरला एंड बिहार आर टू स्टेट्स, नो APMC. वन मोर नॉर्थ ईस्टर्न स्टेट डजंट हैव APMC. It was Karnataka. The electronic regulated marketplace, that is the example which the center used, where they connected all of their APMCs on one portal. This was the idea of Karnataka, which was then replicated on the national level. Though unke e-governance reforms they highly successful, which the center is replicating. One was the Bhumi project, that is digitalization of land records, which then converted into Digital India Land Record Modernization Program. Second was electronic regulated marketplace, which got accepted at the center level because of its success at the state level. These two technology reforms introduced by Karnataka government. Is the idea of agriculture clear? How exactly you have to prepare? Seeing these two topics, rest all are factual topics. Aquaculture, basics of the sector, key programs, same with inland fisheries. You understand the idea of credit guarantee now? Collateral ki guarantee government ki. They have an organization for this. This credit guarantee is for multiple sectors. It's not just for this MSME and all, number of sectors get credit guarantee. Basic idea about National Turmeric Board, information can be asked, tea board, coffee board, शायद पूछा भी है 2 साल पहले. What is NABARD? National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development. Basic idea. If you see, most of the topics are organization or issues. What is NABARD?
तो फिर ये RRB आगे फार्मर्स को लोन देते हैं. RRB और जो
What's the basic idea? RRB is one of the functions it can do. What is the basic idea? Refinancing, that's giving money, just the translate kar raha English mein. What's the broader idea? Why do you need to set up such a bank? Finance agriculture. Banks cannot do it. Interest rate low रखे जाते हैं, तो are they providing money directly to farmer? Then फिर interest rate low कैसे?
Non-collateral loans.
Non-collateral. They can cover credit guarantee also. They can also provide credit guarantee. But what exactly is the purpose of such bodies? There are 5 All India financial institutions. Just like NABARD, there are 5 All India financial institutions. One is NABARD, which helps the development of agriculture. Then other you have Small Industrial Bank Development of India, SIDB, National Housing Bank, providing money for export, EXIM. 4. What is the fifth one? Recently created, can be a probable question. 2021 National Bank for Financing Infrastructure Development, which was the first one to be created on these lines. ये 5 ऑल इंडिया हैं, छोटे भी हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल पावर फाइनेंस कॉर्पोरेशन, रूरल इलेक्ट्रिफिकेशन कॉर्पोरेशन, दीज आर स्मॉलर वंस ऑल्सो जो सेक्टर स्पेसिफिक हैं. ऑल इंडिया ये 5 हैं. Which was the first one to be created? The first one to be created was Industrial Financial Corporation, 1948. This has now been converted into an NBFC. The second one to be created was ICICI, which was with the help of, this was a private development financial institution with the help of World Bank, 1955. This has been converted in a commercial bank. The next one was Industrial Development Bank of India, IDBI, commercial bank under the government. ये तीनों अब नहीं है. NABARD was created in what year? 82. SIDBI 1989. All of these. LIC is also one of these institutions. The idea is that commercial banks will always work for profit. And if they want to finance the development of a structure, infrastructure or any of the development of particular sectors, they will always face a problem of asset liability mismatch. The problem with cooperative is that cooperative banks take money from anyone but give loans to only members. But if you have to give deposits, ज़्यादा deposits commercial bank के पास आएंगे, cooperative के पास? Commercial. That means they also don't have the resources for investment of development of sectors. तो sectoral development कौन करेगा जिसमें loans लंबे चाहिए? Or you want to give loan to sectors or particular areas where no commercial or cooperative bank is going. जो backward areas हैं, regional backwardness, who's going to tackle that? Who's going to build the infrastructure required in particular sectors? This is where the government will create certain institutions which are called as developmental financial institutions. Developmental financial institutions are there in every economy. They are the ones which are responsible for development of the economy, specifically building up sectors or building infrastructure in general. Same problem was there in 1947. We did not have savings. तो पैसे कहाँ से आएंगे? पैसे आएंगे Industrial Financial Corporation. So what these developmental financial institutions do, they have particular mandate to develop particular sectors. For example, NABARD is for rural areas and agriculture. SIDBI is for small industry, housing, export and infrastructure. Particular sector who decides the mandate, all of these bodies are created by law of the parliament. How do they raise money? They raise money from market. They issue bonds in the market which can be subscribed by both domestic and foreign players. They can take money from foreign and domestic markets both. Also, the government can provide certain concessional finance to them. RBI also has a special fund which provides help to developmental financial institutions. So they raise money from the market through issue of securities, and they also take money from center and RBI. RBI has a special fund for developmental financial institutions. This is how they raise money, and they provide money for development of sectors either to the banks, it could be commercial banks, cooperative banks, RRBs, anyone, or they provide money to large corporates for development of the sector. They do not provide money directly to private individuals. These banks act as the developmental banks for the economy. Every economy has it, whether it is Germany, US or China, which is going to be responsible for development of the economy, which the banks are either unable to do or unwilling to do. So NABARD is going to force the banks to give self-help group loans जो बैंक खुद unwilling थे देने के लिए. NABARD is going to provide them refinancing facility कि you give the loan, we are going to cover for you. You give the loan, we are going to provide you the credit guarantee. This is how NABARD in 1992 was very instrumental in the self-help group bank linkage program. So all of these developmental financial institutions are called as gap fillers. Those financial works which entities will not be able to do. We are going to take in, money comes from concessional money from center or the RBI or even market. When initially these developmental financial institutions started, how the government helped them apart from giving concessional finance, whenever they were issuing bonds in the market, government said those bonds will enjoy SLR status. So automatically banks were putting money in DFIs. So I can create conditions so that they can get money and further lending, refinancing and infrastructure development. Same thing happened with banks. Why did NPAs, so much NPAs happened in the banking system in India? What was the reason for NPAs? Non-performing asset हुए last 10 साल में. Why? What was the specific reason? Because most of them were giving loans to those projects which were asset liability mismatches. They were giving loans for infrastructure. When they were giving loans for infrastructure, they don't have the capacity for it. Most of the loans failed. Now you have a very big problem. Banks ने वो loan देने बंद किए, infrastructure को फिर किसने loan दिए? NBFCs ने. 2017 ILFS failed. Both of them are not giving loans to infrastructure. Bank की सारी lending shadow banks में गई. Shadow banks भी fail हुए. Commercial papers yesterday I told you failed. When these two entities are not giving, now in 2021 the government created. Who is going to finance infrastructure? Though after 91, because of the presence of big private banks, both domestic and foreign, the relevance of DFIs dropped significantly. Because 91 se pehle, private banks were not doing infrastructure lending, but after 91, they got the finance, they were doing it mostly. DFIs were not very successful, plus the government also withdrew the SLR status and also was not giving concessional finance. A lot of DFIs failed. The first DFI converted into an NBFC, these two converted into banks. Because they were not having a good business, क्योंकि banks ने सारा business ले लिया. Because 91 तक you did not have private banks, but 93 you are allowing both foreign, domestic and outside, both private banks, foreign and domestic. Then again the government has introduced this in 2021 because now we don't have avenues for infrastructure development. This is the body which is going to play a role. NABARD plays a similar role in rural development and agriculture. So the concept, broader concept is developmental financial institution. Is the idea clear? See, you can't know about NABARD out of the blue. उसका context है कि क्या है वो. What purpose? Similar, these 5 All India financial institutions. Now, All India financial institutions also recently there has been a change introduced. Are Basel norms applicable for them? What are Basel norms? Prudential norms against risk protection. That if you take too much risk, capital रखना पड़ेगा ताकि लोगों का trust ना जाए. Is there any capital regulations on them under Basel regulations implemented by RBI? Just read, there is. This is the year they have changed. All India financial institutions pe there is 10 or 15% capital adequacy ratio. This is how to just relate the concepts. Social impact bond is clear. ये कल समझाया था. Infrastructure के लिए asset liability mismatch होगा ना. Plus agriculture sector में what if I don't give loans because a lot of people are small farmers who are not giving the loans back. Self-help group पे मैं क्यों trust करूँगा? Being a bank, I'm there for shareholders. I want to take profits. Why will I give loans to agriculture? Why will I give loans to self-help group? Priority sector में आप मुझे force कर सकते हो, but मैं कुछ ही लोगों को सारे दे दूँगा. And backward areas में कौन सा बैंक जाएगा?
सर माय क्वेश्चन इज कि DFI जो काम कर रही है विच इज़ कि वो स्पेसिफिक सेक्टर्स के लिए फंड बना रही है, उसके लिए मार्केट से रेस कर रही है पैसा, वो काम डायरेक्टली अगर बैंक करे. बैंक
क्यों करेगा? बैंक के पास प्रॉफिट है. व्हाट इज द मोटिव विद द बैंक टू डू दैट? इफ आई एम अर्निंग मनी फ्रॉम करोल बाग, व्हाई विल आई ओपन अ ब्रांच इन एनी विलेज? व्हाई विल आई गो टू एग्रीकल्चर एंड व्हाई विल आई गो टू अ बैकवर्ड एरिया? नॉट जस्ट एग्रीकल्चर, MSME ऑल्सो. यहाँ तो गवर्नमेंट ने लॉ बनाया है, फंड हम उन्हें कंसेशनल दे रहे हैं सो दैट दे पुश द प्रोसेस. Why will the bank do it?
सर जो DFI का मेथड है उससे भी मार्केट से पैसा रेस करके इन्वेस्टर्स के लिए पैसा बन रहा है एंड उसमें बैंक्स भी पैसा बना रहे हैं.
See, this is what I'm trying to tell. DFI लंबा टाइम का पैसा लेंगे, जरूरी नहीं है पैसा बने, लॉस भी हो सकता है. They are for developmental purposes, not for commercial purposes. Even if it is a loss, they still continue. Why will the banks do it? Consider who has opened the maximum Jan Dhan Yojana accounts. Why did HDFC not open it? डिपॉजिट्स तो आ ही सकते हैं ना. बैंक अकाउंट अगर 10 खोले, 10 में से 4 में भी डिपॉजिट है, मेरा फायदा है. सो व्हाई डिड दे नॉट डू इट? दे विल ऑलवेज हैव 4 ब्रांचेस हियर बिकॉज दे वांट टू टारगेट द हाई नेट वर्थ इंडिविजुअल. सो दे विल ऑलवेज हैव सर्विस ओरिएंटेशन. दे डू क्लास बैंकिंग. SBI से भी आप कितना फोर्स करा लो, SBI भी देयर विल बी अ प्रॉब्लम. दे विल नॉट ओपन ब्रांचेस और दे विल डू लोन्स. प्रायोरिटी सेक्टर लेंडिंग में व्हाट दे डू, लोन मेला लगा के सेम लोगों को वापस लोन दे रहे हैं. हु इज गोइंग टू देन डेवलप द सेक्टर? So this is why the name developmental financial institutions. The purpose is not commercial, the purpose is development, and they mostly channelize funds from insurance and pensions fund. Government करवाता है, LIC का पैसा डलवाएगा. Government is the one which will arrange things for them for specific developmental purpose. Understand social impact bond? Indian Council of Agriculture Research, just the basic about this organization. कुछ specific हुआ नहीं है. Industry and following topics, we have 2-3 things to discuss here. We'll discuss after a break. So in mining and industry, we'll discuss the topic of PLI. Just read about the features of the rest of the topics. Why did the government introduce PLI? Export maximization. Why specifically this scheme? So this is the first time the government is paying them money for production. The first time. The earlier schemes of the government, till 1991, the government had license quota permit Raj. Most of the industrialization happened through state. After 91, when the government allowed the private sector to participate, why did we not have investment in industry? 91 के बाद इंडस्ट्री क्यों नहीं आया? सर्विसेज में बहुत डेवलपमेंट हुआ, नॉट इन इंडस्ट्री. Industry contribution, in fact, manufacturing contribution to GDP was 16% in 91. It's still the same. In fact, it's for 15 to 16 is what it stable from then to then. And this is the reason why we don't have two things. There's no development in industry, we don't have, and also we don't have कोई भी high tech product है, even the low tech product we are importing. The low tech products coming from China, high tech product coming from the tigers, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan. Why India, no one invested in industry? There were two major issues. One, that India did not have a competitive logistics. This is also a topic covered in detail where you have Gati Shakti, National Logistics Plan. And all of these things have been asked in mains also. Very important topic, logistics. The second is the regulatory environment. Because what we had actually done was, when we invited the private sector, we had only removed the entry barriers. What is required after entry till exit, ये चीजें improve नहीं हुई. Whether it was getting land, whether it was getting environmental clearances, whether it was taxation problem or problems on conflict resolution, that is judiciary. और ये सारी policies, even if they were present, they were not stable. Whether it is trade policy or exit. Exit policy has been introduced in 2016, the IBC. So all of these policies were a problem. So it was easy to enter after 91 where you had dismantled the barriers, but you did not improve the regulatory environment after that. There was the bureaucratic Raj replaced by regulator Raj, where regulator was still the state. Though we had independent regulators also, SEBI, TRAI, IRDA, but mostly the state had the regulatory powers. So problem with these things, that means we are trying to improve this. Now to improve this infrastructure, the government first introduced a policy of special economic zones, where the government believed कि हम infrastructure और regulation आसान कर देंगे in zones में, people will now export. But problem is we started with number of SEZs and we still not solved the problem of infrastructure regulation. This plan failed. The second thing the government did, the National Industrial Policy in 2011 or National Manufacturing Policy 2011. The government focus areas were again infrastructure and regulation. Here they introduced another cluster called National Investment Manufacturing Zone. ये zone successful नहीं हुआ because there were regulatory issues. इनको बोला tax free पर इन पे MAT और DDT लगा दिया. Also number of SEZs were opened. The idea was to be a focused approach. We opened more than 200 SEZs, most of them away from the coast, who could not deal with the domestic area. Domestic area में tariff था, the domestic tariff area. Then Make in India 2015, it was just a repackaged new manufacturing policy in 2015. Then came the Atmanirbhar plan. This came in 2019. Now all of these schemes did not help improve the infrastructure or regulation. As a result, most of the industries went for other shores, specifically in China. So we were not able to create jobs or technology. Now the government believes that why should a manufacturing plant say A, choose India? The government says this manufacturing plant should choose India because to cover for the infrastructure and regulatory bottlenecks, we are going to pay you money. This is the production linked incentive. Now the focus of the government has changed from a generalized approach to improve manufacturing to a very focused approach. First, we are going to pay money to a select few players, whether these players are domestic manufacturing or whether they are foreign. Now the government believes the manufacturing environment has become so competitive that even if we provide this, new players will not be able to compete. Why not provide incentives to already established players? And this is where the government is saying that we are going to build national champions. We are going to select few players who are going to become national champions because national champions ही compete कर सकते हैं. They have export potential. National champions ही हैं जो technology में invest कर सकते हैं. And this is going to create jobs for us. Now, how do we incentivize these national champions? Incentive will come from money. तो जो आपको handicaps लग रहे हैं उसकी जगह हम आपको पैसे देंगे. But this money which we are going to give you is to be based on performance. This is why the term production linked incentive. Any firm will first apply for it. The government is going to select the firm, and then the government is going to select a target. The target can be on turnover, target can be on incremental production. Any target could be given by the government. You achieve the target, you are going to get incentive. Direct money or tax breaks, we can decide every particular sector कैसे tax breaks देने हैं. This is the incentive so that national champions get created. This was highly successful in mobile phones. Export of mobile phones increased in India. It started with 3 sectors. Now there are 14 sectors that have been included under PLI. A targeted focused approach to build certain national champions which are going to provide competitiveness and technology which will also create jobs. This is the idea of production linked incentive scheme in multiple sectors. There was a very big debate on PLI recently because the question was, now you are giving money to players who are already very advanced. तो आप बड़ी कंपनियों जो पहले प्रॉफिटेबल है उनको आप पैसे दे रहे हो. What is the opportunity cost? That is, are they bringing this or not? Specifically, are they bringing these two things or not? For example, the case of mobile phone was taken. The ex-RBI governor, Raghuram Rajan, was the one who attacked on this policy. The IT minister replied that we have given exports. What his point of concern was, and this number of commentators have commented, what you have done in mobile phones is the lowest end of the value chain where you are doing only assembly. तो आपको टेक्नोलॉजी तो मिली नहीं है, प्लस you also have not created significant jobs. Whatever money you gave to the company who was doing the assembly, इस पैसे से आप और कुछ भी कर सकते थे. We would not have complained if you would have created benefits for everyone. You are not creating benefits for everyone. You are giving money to the already players who are very profitable in business. You are giving money to cover your handicaps. To cover your handicaps, are you getting this or not? So this is a very big point of concern. Are we getting the technology or jobs if we are giving money for production? Secondly, the problem here which was complained by number of firms of both Japan and South Korea, when you are selecting the firms and when you are selecting the target, in dono mein you have again the involvement of bureaucracy. Something which we had ended in 91, that bureaucracy will not be involved in the industrial process. License, quota, permit raj gone. Now you are again involving the bureaucracy in selecting and also then fulfilling the targets, where the firms have complained the money has been delayed. This is why there is lukewarm response in most of the sectors, because the trust is less whether the government will pay involvement of bureaucracy. And the third most largest concern here is, you are giving money for development. If you stop this money, you cannot continue giving money for production. If you stop this money, what is stopping that unit to exit India? That means they are going to threaten you with exit the moment you stop this. तो आपको cumulative benefit मिला क्या फिर? If the plant, the technology has increased so much that anyone can shift a plant with ease, if people exit, that means you will not be able to exit from your own scheme. So that means if you're going to give support, and it is mostly a perpetual support, it is coming at what benefit? Are you going to create jobs or technology or not? Because if we see from the surface, 14 sectors have been selected, जिसमें से 3 ही sector हैं labor intensive. 11 sector are mostly capital intensive projects. So this is why now we have to calculate the opportunity cost of the money we are spending in PLI. This is the larger idea about production linked incentive. What is important? You should know the 14 sectors and the broad features के हो क्या रहा है. The statement asked in the exam last year was, is PLI available to foreign firms or not? Yes, hai answer. You don't have solve it here. Is the idea clear? Another industry where the government is focusing significantly, that is semiconductor. Now what is the semiconductor scheme the government is implementing? The National Semiconductor Mission. The National Semiconductor Mission is to cover the whole supply chain. 76,000 crore का plan है for 10 years covering the whole supply chain. So you just need to know the supply chain features अपने आप याद हो जाएंगे. There are 4 schemes under the National Semiconductor Mission. The first process is the design. और इंडिया का सबसे ज़्यादा the capacity is this only. This is the highest value in the chain. Maximum money is in this sector. One of the most effective businesses is design. एक ही कंपनी है जो सबसे ज़्यादा पैसे हैं उनके पास. Any idea which one is design only? Design, manufacture नहीं करते. TSMC and USMC are this manufacturing. जो 80% मैन्युफैक्चरिंग है वो दोनों ताइवान की कंपनीज है, TSMC एंड USMC. डिजाइन की कंपनी विच इज द मोस्ट एफिशिएंट. फ्री स्केल नहीं. NVIDIA graphics. If you just see the performance of NVIDIA graphics on the share market in the last 5 years, you see where it has gone because it is maximum here. NVIDIA graphics plus Samsung खुद भी अपना डिजाइन करता है. Samsung, Apple both have certain significant design capacities. Now at the design end, we have a scheme which is called as design linked incentive. If any firm is building the design initiatives in India, there are two type of things here. You are building the design or you are giving the design to someone else to build. दोनों जगह पे आपको government benefit देगी under design linked incentive. So the first segment of the chain is the design linked incentive scheme. Second is government covering the manufacturing end of the chain, where the government is going to provide money to 2 fabs for manufacturing. This is the most capital intensive project where high amount of money is required along with good quality infrastructure. Significant infrastructure requirements in terms of clean water and also in terms of other infrastructures. Clean space बहुत चाहिए इसमें. Only 2 fabs. Then the government is going to have assembly testing packaging units, support for them also. Out of the 3, maximum job creation potential assembly testing packaging का है. Micron Technologies, which was in talks with the government, they were an assembly testing packaging plant. 2 fabs for manufacturing, 1 is the design linked incentive. These are the 3. One unrelated scheme to semiconductor, but the government included in the semiconductor mission, is the creation of display fabs. Money for display fabs only. The display technology, for example, the LCD, LED, both organic and quantum. If anyone wants to set up these display fab हमारे इंडिया में यहाँ किसी चीज़ की प्रोडक्शन नहीं है. The only competitive advantage India has right now in the semiconductor chain is designing only, where 20% of the design engineers of semiconductor are Indians, but none of them are working for Indian companies. They're mostly working for MNCs. Texas Instruments, such a free skills, everyone's working for outside companies, not for Indian companies. India has absolutely no presence here. एक चंडीगढ़ में small plant है government का for manufacturing, but it is only for research purposes. There is no significant manufacturing happening of semiconductors because इसमें machines requirement, there's a significant capital investment required here. Assembly testing packaging में job creation है, but we don't have any presence here across the chain, including display fabs. Display fabs is also, who's the world leader in display fabs? Samsung, LG, both South Korea. Samsung is an expert in QLED, LG is an expert in OLED. What is the difference between the two? UPSC asked this in 2015. कि OLED और QLED में difference क्या है? And color display, liquid color display and LED. QLED and OLED, which is more expensive? The highest technology is OLED. What happens in OLED? हम black, true black. Ad देखिए true black. What exactly is the difference in technology? True black OLED दिखाता है, but you think you will be able to recognize true black? वो बोलते इसलिए हैं क्योंकि उनको और कुछ लोगों को समझ नहीं आ सकता. You should have the idea कि देख क्या रहे हैं. Just like you have the iPhone, you don't know what to do with iPhone. WhatsApp ही चलाना तो 10,000 MI का फोन भी दे रहा है WhatsApp तो. What's the difference? See, this is general awareness. ये कोई टेक्नोलॉजी नहीं है. जनरल अवेयरनेस है डिस्प्ले टेक्नोलॉजी में क्या डेवलपमेंट है. एंड वाई इज इट नॉट सक्सेसफुल? जो इसका फीचर है, जो डिफाइनिंग फीचर है, वही इसका फेलियर है. हाँ, व्हाट एग्जैक्टली इज द फीचर? इन दिस द होल डिस्प्ले हैज स्पेसिफिक यूनिट्स. एलईडी बल्ब, एक एक बल्ब अलग से जलता है. इन दिस इज द कंप्लीट विल बी एक्टिवेटेड वंस. और एक एक बल्ब अलग से जलता है तो उसमें बल्ब में फेलियर है तो बर्न रेट बहुत है स्क्रीन पे. So some segments you can lose color also on OLED, but the maximum better display technology is OLED only because singular bulbs are the ones which will lighten up in OLED. Read about this, is a very interesting phenomena. ये जो Dolbos Atmos और ये Dolby Atmos बनाता है, what exactly is the technology? ये सब general awareness है. Cinema में जाते हो they try to tell you what the sound technology is. These type of questions are not based. Someone can teach you science and technology. ये general awareness है, समझ आना चाहिए. बहुत ही एक सिंपल क्वेश्चन है, यूपीआई से क्या होगा? नोबडी कैन टीच यू. यू आर यूजिंग यूपीआई ऑन अ डेली बेसिस. कैन यू यूज यूपीआई इन एन एटीएम? दिस इज अ क्वेश्चन. रिसेंटली इटसेल्फ 3 months बैक दे हैव इंट्रोड्यूस्ड यूपीआई इन एटीएम से क्यूआर कोड से आप पैसे निकाल सकते हो. दीज आर बेसिक थिंग्स व्हिच यू शुड नो. यूपीएससी समटाइम्स विल आस्क क्वेश्चन ऑन जनरल अवेयरनेस. दिस इज नॉट व्हिच यू कैन रीड इन PT365. फिर बाद में लोग आते हैं कि PT3 जला दे, कुछ नहीं आया इसमें से. दे विल मेक अ वीडियो ऑल्सो. ये देखो, उससे क्या फर्क पड़ रहा है ना डॉक्यूमेंट को रिस्क, यू आर नॉट गेटिंग सेलेक्टेड. दिस इज वाई वी से पहले एक्सपेक्टेशन सही रखोगे कैसे पढ़नी है डॉक्यूमेंट. वन डे बिफोर और 2 months बिफोर द एग्जाम यू आर कमिंग, यू हैव नॉट रेड द न्यूज और आपको लग रहा है एक बुकलेट आपका सिलेक्शन करा देगा. यू आर द स्मार्टेस्ट पर्सन ऑन द अर्थ. यू थिंक वन डॉक्यूमेंट यू विल रीड फॉर 4 subjects एंड यू विल बी सिलेक्टेड. इतना ही आसान होता तो लोग इतने 6 साल से नहीं बैठे होते यहाँ पे. उन्होंने तो 6 PT365 पढ़ी है, आपने एक पढ़ी है. फॉरगेट वन, मैंने उससे ज्यादा पढ़ ली है. Is the idea clear? Fab is production unit. Display fabs and manufacturing fabs, production units. Fabrication units होता है fab. Let's see document में आगे क्या है. Is the idea clear? I've given the details of all the schemes also. You just have to need an overview. समझ आ जाए 4 units हैं उसमें कहाँ पैसे मिल रहे हैं. 2 display fabs, 2 manufacturing fabs, design linked incentive, and the 4th one assembly testing packaging. 4 things covered. Mining and minerals, all of this is fact. Critical minerals क्या है? Completely factual information. Special economic zones, you understand what are special economic zones? Only meant for exports, duty import free. Production linked incentive we have discussed. So you can see major objectives. Global champions, national champions, manufacturing and innovation, achieve self-reliance. Hardware sector, PLI. Semiconductor industry, the 4 things we discussed. Semiconductor fabs, display fabs, assembly testing, packaging, and DLI. 4 across the supply chain. Pharmacy Commission Bill 2023. So now you can check the probability also. बिल है कितना probable है और फार्मेसी रिलेटेड क्वेश्चन कितना probable है. सो इट्स नॉट दैट यू हैव टू रीड कंप्लीट 50 पेजेस विद इक्वल फोकस. कहीं पे सो भी सकते हो, फिर उठोगे तो अगला टॉपिक कर लेना. नेशनल डिवाइसेस पॉलिसी, सो सम पॉलिसी यू हैव टू डिसाइड द प्रोबेबिलिटी ऑन योर ओन. व्हाट इज डिजिटल पब्लिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर? द टर्म हियर इज इंपॉर्टेंट. व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय? तो वो पब्लिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है. ब्रॉडर आइडिया क्या है? अच्छा, मतलब पब्लिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर ऑन डिजिटल. हाँ, और ओपन नेटवर्क, ONDC. ONDC is an example. UPI is an example. What is the idea? What are the basic features if you want to tell to someone DPI क्या है? Promote digitization. Anything else? Promote e-governance. Is it about e-governance? Anything else? वो example हो सकता है. You can see 3 things here. Features I tell you, उससे question कोई भी solve हो जाएगा. 3 things: innovation, for example UPI or ONDC. It should be inclusive, and there should be competition. That it is not a monopoly. For example, Google का search chain is a monopoly. There should be competition, that you are not just limited to one player. Innovative, new technology, anything, inclusion, competition, and how do we ensure this? Open systems, transparent and participatory governance. This is the essence of digital public infrastructure. Competition is a very important thing, because if you understand what is ONDC, Open Network Digital Commerce से ज़्यादा समझ आएगा. What is ONDC? It's a marketplace, but how is it different? Because marketplace में क्या है? If say Amazon is a marketplace or Zomato is a marketplace, these are not competitive. Amazon decides where the network, who the seller is and how will they sell. उनकी transparency and visibility कितनी होगी. Similarly, Zomato will decide. If you see, Zomato sells it at a premium space. Same thing Amazon will do. Now in this open network digital commerce, it is a marketplace for any type of seller and any type of buyer, any type of product. That means innovation, that it is providing you network benefits. You can buy anything which you want on one platform only. It is inclusion, that means even smaller players who face the problem of visibility in these exclusive chains are not getting it. Competition, anyone can build a app on ONDC. Magic Pin for example is ONDC. Anyone can start. UPI कोई भी बेच सकता है. Competition you have across the chain. Established under an open, transparent and participatory governance. The whole idea is it should not be a monopoly, because digital spaces में it is very easy to create a monopoly just like Google has done. Those monopolies can be for exploitation of the consumers. We want the participation of people in the digital ecosystem having an inclusive space. This is what we want. This is why we want to build open network source software types so that everyone can build a application on it. This is the idea of digital public infrastructure. 3 layers हैं: market, competition, governance, open, transparent, participatory, and higher technology standards. So from the name itself, innovation, inclusion, competition, market competition, governance standards, and technology, that is innovation. This is the idea about digital public infrastructure. The meaning of the term is very important. You can have statement based on the meaning of this also, and which of the following infrastructure classifies as DPI. So if you understand the concept, that is clear. 3 things to remember: innovation, inclusion, and competition. Competition is the most important thing. How is ONDC working? Who has provided money to ONDC? और तो कोई ऑप्शन है नहीं. पब्लिक एंड गवर्नमेंट. तो गवर्नमेंट को कहाँ से मिले? मामा के घर से. Public ही है. ONDC, how is ONDC running? See, these things you should know, features. Is there a fees? They have a model which they are planning to bring in, that is a platform fees. Right now they don't have any fees. They've got money by selling shares in the market. Number of investors have put money in ONDC, around 180 crores they have collected by giving shares of ONDC to different players. In the future they are trying to introduce a market fees. अभी उनका potential उन्होंने बनाया है कि market fees से कुछ fees ले सकते हैं on the platform. This is the idea. How is UPI earning money? How is UPI earning money? Platform fees. See, UPI is built by whom? NPCI. NPCI again is promoted by 22 odd banks. It is a non-for-profit organization. Open बनाया उन्हें, जैसे just like internet is open. This is by DPI. Anyone can use Aadhaar, anyone can use UPI, anyone can use ONDC. Basic idea should be clear. Google बेचता है UPI by giving the discounts. तो उन players को जिन्होंने उनको platform किया है जिसमें they give the coupons. Now they don't give money. They give coupons. So वो coupons किसके होंगे? उनसे वो पैसे ले रहा है. This is how they are partnering with firms. Right now nobody has monetized UPI. There is no fees which has to be paid on UPI because the NPCI provides it for free. NPCI is a non-for-profit organization. It's not a for-profit organization. 180 करोड़ लिया ना इन्होंने, shares बेचे हैं. Which one? NPCI has given them for free. For example, you are saying online website खोलने के पैसे कैसे लगेंगे? Open source software है तो वो same thing, the concept वो उन्होंने product बनाया हुआ है, anyone can use. You can also start an app on UPI. What they are doing is whoever is giving you UPI, you see how many other products they are also selling. तो profit उससे बनाएंगे वो. For example, phone pay and all they push loans also. Loans for other entities. तो वहाँ से पैसे बनाएंगे. तो उन्होंने onboard customer कर लिया, trust बन गया. Take money otherwise, not from UPI. Because the problem is क्यों किया है digital public? क्योंकि competition है. वो पैसे लेंगे तो कोई और free में देगा. You will drop that app. We want competition so that you're not stuck to one player so that they can take monopoly profits from you. तो अगर हमने आपको एक ऐसा payment system दे दिया जो बहुत आसान है और हमने उसके फिर पैसे लगा दिए, just like Jio, we gave it for free, then we charge money. तो वो competition नहीं है, you're stuck with Jio. You should have the option to move to some other platform. This is the idea of digital public infrastructure. Your ability to participate should not be contingent on your ability to pay. That is the idea. Digital public infrastructure. Any definition of infrastructure? What is the infrastructure? What is infrastructure? वही basic features हैं. Infrastructure is a public good, non-rival, non-excludable. You should not have exclusion, and also you should not be able to stop anyone from using it, and non-rival, if you use it, it should not be reduced for someone else. Basic infrastructure is a public good. Logistics policies have been discussed in detail here. Mostly important for mains. Exact question can come from these. The leads index, Gati Shakti. Dedicated freight corridors, a related concept. All are basic things, कुछ specific not to discuss, कुछ ऐसा. Railway safety, Kavach, you should know. Commission of Railway Safety. Commission of Railway Safety was in news. This Commission of Railway Safety works under which ministry? It's Ministry of Civil Aviation. Why? Avoid conflict of interest, independence है. कोई भी अपनी गलती डिपार्टमेंट खुद कभी नहीं बताएगा. So this is why Commission of Rail Safety is Ministry of Civil Aviation. Bharat New Car Assessment Program, Safety Programs. Major ports center government, minor ports state. All of these are, how are they created? All of these ports? Ports Authority of India, anything else? All of these are created as trusts. Only one is private company. Which is private company? Kandla port is the only public port which is a company, government company. Corporatized port है, बाकी सारे trust हैं. Directly under the government ministry. हाँ, Kamarajar port only. It's not Kandla. What did I say? And Nor port जिसका नाम है Kamarajar port, that is private corporatized. Kandla बोला था. Kamarajar port. ONDC also explained here. National Electricity Plan, Central Electricity Authority also features. Know about the basic idea of the power production in the country. Which is the source where we produce the maximum? Coal. Generation capacity is maximum coal. Or renewable में maximum? Solar. Market coupling, same price, national gas grid. क्या discuss करें? I don't find any topic. IFSC, this is an important topic. How do Indian companies raise money from outside? This I'll discuss. I have gone through most of it. It's always also fact. अब मैं यहाँ देख के पढ़ूँ, nothing is relevant then. Right. How do Indian companies raise money from outside? This was an important change announced in 2019 budget, but now the government has operationalized it. How do Indian companies raise money from outside? Can they list on foreign exchanges? This is what has changed. Before this, Indian companies could raise money from foreign sources only to two things. One, whatever shares or bonds they are investing or listing on Indian Stock Exchange, foreign institutional investors or foreign portfolio investors. Second was the concept of ADR or GDR. What is the concept of ADR or GDR? Indian companies will present certain shares to a depository bank in outside country. The idea of depository receipt is ना कंपनी अपने शोर्स से जाएगी ना इन्वेस्टर को आना पड़ेगा, दोनों अपनी कंट्री में रहेंगे. The government of India deposited certain shares in a depository bank in say US. This depository bank on the basis of this share is going to issue a depository receipt. In exchange is going to get money from the investor, which money is going to go to the Indian company. If this depository company is in US, this is called as American depository receipt. If this is in any other country of the world, it is called as global. So if an Indian company wants to raise money from outside, either take money directly through foreign institutional investors, इसमें उनको यहाँ आना पड़ा. Second is, both of them are in their own country. Indian company gives it to depository. Depository will issue a depository receipt. Investor stays in their country. Indian company in their own country. Now the third way of raising money is, Indian company can now list in international exchanges outside. These international exchanges which have been established in the gift city. The International Financial Service Center. Here there are two international exchanges, one started by Bombay Stock Exchange and the other by National Stock Exchange. They both have international exchanges here. These Indian companies will be able to list on international exchanges and draw money from outside investors. Indian companies have now been allowed to be listed on international exchanges through the gift city. This option was not available before. Only option was ADR, GDR or foreign institutional investor. Now it has been allowed to invest in or list on international exchanges. Can foreign companies list on Indian exchanges? They cannot list on Indian exchanges. Foreign companies will first have to open a branch in India, incorporated in India, then only they can list. Foreign companies cannot list on Indian exchanges, but now Indian companies can list on foreign exchanges. If you want to invest in any other company outside, you will have to go outside like a foreign investor. Yes, वो तो यही है ना फिर. वो तो यही है. Then they are buying shares. They are not listing. They are not taking money. They are giving money. वो इन्वेस्टर्स हैं. वो पी नोट्स हैं इन्वेस्टर्स. वो रेज नहीं करी, कंपनी को चाहिए पैसा. पी नोट इज अ डेरिवेटिव इंस्ट्रूमेंट वेयर foreign investors who are willing to invest in India but not getting registered with SEBI. They don't want to be registered with SEBI. They give money to foreign institutional investors. In exchange, they give them P notes. P notes are derivative instruments because these instruments represent the underlying value of shares. This is how a derivative instrument works. हाँ, IDR है वो. Indian Depository Receipt definitely. IDR, GDR सबके लिए open है. But डायरेक्ट लिस्टिंग अलाउड नहीं है. डायरेक्ट लिस्टिंग इंडियन कंपनीज को भी दे हैड अनाउंस्ड इट इन द 2019 बजट. दे हैव ऑपरेशनलाइज्ड दिस ईयर. कि ऑपरेशनलाइज दें कि दो है यहाँ पे इंटरनेशनल एक्सचेंज. वन इज कॉल्ड द इंडिया इंटरनेशनल एक्सचेंज विच हैज बीन प्रमोटेड बाय बॉम्बे स्टॉक एक्सचेंज एंड द सेकंड इज NSE IFSC एक्सचेंज दैट इज प्रमोटेड बाय नेशनल स्टॉक एक्सचेंज. तो दो उन एक्सचेंजेस पे आप लिस्ट कर सकते हो. वन मोर कॉन्सेप्ट हैज बीन एक्सप्लेन्ड आफ्टर दिस, दैट इज योर ट्रांसफर प्राइसिंग. इन्वेस्टर को अपनी कंट्री लीव नहीं करनी और कंपनी जिसको रेस करना है वो भी नहीं कर रहे. तो उन्होंने शेयर्स एक डिपॉजिटरी के पास रखवाए. इस डिपॉजिटरी ने रिसीट इशू करी और इन्वेस्टर से पैसे लिए. सो दे आर स्टेइंग इन देयर ओन कंट्री, गॉट डिपॉजिटरी रिसीट. दे आर इन देयर ओन कंट्री, गॉट द मनी. This depository receipt becomes a derivative instrument. It is deriving value from the underlying shares of the Indian company. Both of them were in their own countries. जहाँ का भी डिपॉजिटरी बैंक होगा वही नाम होगा रिसीट का. इफ इट इज इन इंडिया इट इज इंडियन डिपॉजिटरी रिसीट. इट इज इन US, अमेरिकन, एनी अदर कंट्री, GDR, ग्लोबल. कैन ऐड कुछ तो इसको पैसे मिलेंगे ना ये प्रोसेस करने का. नहीं, पी नोट में तो आए, दे आर लीविंग द कंट्री. पी नोट में दे आर गोइंग हेयर टू द इन्वेस्टर एंड इन्वेस्टर इज लीविंग द कंट्री. उन्होंने अपनी कंट्री में रहते हुए इन्वेस्ट किया है. वो रूट में यू आर गिविंग मनी टू समवन हु हैज टू नाउ रजिस्टर टू सेबी एंड देन गो इन दैट कंट्री एंड इन्वेस्ट. तो इसमें एक्सचेंज करेंसी होगी. दे विल हैव टू डू दैट. Another concept explained is transfer pricing. What is the idea of transfer pricing? This is one concept, last concept we'll discuss. What is transfer pricing? This is a tax evasion strategy or avoidance? It is evasion. It's illegal. जो legal loopholes आप use करते हो वो avoidance है. Base erosion profit shifting is avoidance. This is tax evasion. This is a related party transaction. Always a related party. First thing to know. Second thing, what happens in this related party? Both of them belong to the same company. One is producing the final product, one is producing the raw material. So if this country has more tax, say 30% tax, and this has less tax, say 10%. So what they do is, if it's producing a $100 item and they are producing a raw material of $10, they have to pay 10% on 10. Now if they transfer $10 here, they do not show it for $10, they show it for say 50. When they show it for 50, they have to pay on value addition 50. Indirect tax on value addition, 30% on 50. Ideally they would have to pay 30% on 90. अगर 10 वो दिखाते तो 90 पे 30% देना पड़ता, 50 पे नहीं. This is tax evasion. And this will only happen when it is a related party transaction. ये दोनों related होंगे. Parent company, one of them were related to each other. Departments हैं, same company है. Related party transaction. तो वो देते 90 पे 30%, अब वो 50 पे 30% दे रहे हैं. This is the idea of transfer pricing. How do we stop transfer pricing, or how do we stop this tax evasion? Transfer pricing is a normal thing. Pricing of goods and services between related party. ये मतलब है transfer pricing का. How do we stop the tax evasion from happening? What the countries do with these two entities is they sign an advance pricing agreement. कि आप जितना भी ट्रांसफर करोगे एक दूसरे का गुड्स, you tell us the prices in advance, so that we don't have to check for the tax evasion. How do we know what is the price in advance? If this B would have sold this product to a player which is not related to a C player, वो कितने प्राइस पे होता उतने पे ये होगा. And when you sell a product to an unrelated party, this is called as the arm length price. कि इंडिपेंडेंट अगर किसी को बेचते कितने प्राइस पे होता है, वही आपका एडवांस प्राइस अग्रीमेंट में होगा. And this advance price agreement is between the two companies and the government of this country A. It can be a bilateral agreement, it can be trilateral also, between the two and the government or government and this कि कितने पे आप goods लेते हो related parties से. This is the idea of transfer pricing to stop tax evasion. What? हाँ, evasion is illegal. Illegal है ये, तभी हम ये advance pricing agreements करते हैं ताकि बाद में ना पकड़े. If you remember, there was a very famous case of the income tax office raiding on BBC. तो BBC वो यही था ट्रांसफर प्राइसिंग, और उन्होंने कुछ नहीं किया था, ट्रांसफर प्राइसिंग उन्होंने गड़बड़ हुई थी. हाँ, अंडर प्राइसिंग इनवॉइसेस में चेंज कर रहे हैं. ट्रांसफर प्राइसिंग का मतलब है रिलेटेड पार्टी ट्रांजैक्शंस का क्या प्राइस है. ओवर इनवॉइस और अंडर इनवॉइसिंग आप इनवॉइसेस में प्रॉब्लम कर रहे हो, तो वो टैक्स चुरा रहे हो आप. हाँ, सेम कॉन्सेप्ट. Another type of tax avoidance which can be asked in the exam. Is this clear? ये तो evasion है, avoidance.
सर ये OECD का global
I'm
minimum
coming to that,
tax.
OECD. Now OECD is not talking about transfer pricing, OECD is talking about base erosion profit shifting. That if you are having profits from one country, you shift the profits to another country so that you have to pay less tax here. तो इसको कंट्रोल करने के लिए what they have proposed, these are called as the globe rules. The second pillar of globe rule says everyone will have to pay a tax of 15%. तो अगर आपने टैक्स बचाया यहाँ 6% है, remaining 9% you will pay to your source country. So everyone has to pay a global minimum of 15%. This is the second pillar of globe rules. The first pillar of globe rule says, and this is related to the taxation in India, what was happening now, because of increase in information communication technology, there are certain firms which are outside India delivering services in India and not paying tax. Outside firms delivering services to India but not paying tax because they're not incorporated here. For example, Google.com selling ad services to Indians. Now this is a service they have sold but they have not paid tax. Similarly, Amazon.com or Nike.com, which are US companies, they are selling products to Indians but not paying tax. So the Indian government said, all of those companies which are providing services and not incorporated in India will have to pay a tax which we called as equalization levy. Equalization levy first in 2016 introduced as the Finance Act was only on ad services 6%. 2020 we have now introduced it on e-commerce services also 2%. The globe rules of OECD said कि ये जो काम हो रहा है ये हर जगह हो रहा है. That companies are providing services without having incorporation in those territories. Without being physically present, they are providing services. How do we tax this? So the first pillar of globe rules is trying to introduce an equalization levy. They are saying whoever is not present physically will still have to pay a tax. But this has two conditional features. One, they have put in a condition of a particular turnover and the turnover is very high. That means they have covered only very few companies. And second thing what they say is, if this equalization levy comes in play, no individual country will be able to levy its own tax. तो अगर हम ये globally rule लगाते हैं, no country will be having an individual taxation system of its own. India is against this. This equalization levy, the popular name is digital services tax. The Google tax or digital service tax. तो अगर आप ये accept करोगे तो आपके individual taxes हटाने पड़ेंगे, इसलिए India is not in favor of the first pillar. India is in favor of second because India does not have a lot of relevance for this because already we are charging 25%. और अगर parent country में कम है तो वहाँ पे इतना there's no difference significant that we can get benefit out. Where the tax haven countries are complaining about second because they believe we get investments only because of our tax features. If we don't give that, we are not going to get investment. This is the OECD plan called the Globe Rules for Tax Avoidance. Equalization levy or digital service tax and 15% of global minimum tax to cover base erosion profit shifting. Is the idea clear? All of these topics you just go through. If you have any problem with these topics or any of the topics which you have discussed before, you can write on this email address. एक PT365 का updation class भी होता है. So if you have any problem in any of the topics, we can discuss those topics in detail in that class. Otherwise, if it is, we'll be able to solve in mail, वो mail पे ही कर लेंगे. This you can write any of your queries here. Try to limit your queries on economics only. मतलब बाकी सब्जेक्ट्स की नहीं, सब्जेक्ट्स के बाहर तो बिल्कुल भी नहीं, ऑन दिस ईमेल एड्रेस। थैंक यू।